The letter trembled in Matthew Burns's calloused hands, not from the wind rattling his cabin windows, but from the terror flooding his veins. 3 sentences, black ink, plain white paper. We know what you saw in the Cypress Arms servers. We know about folder C7. This is your only warning. His throat constricted as if invisible hands were choking him. Matthew crumpled the paper, then smoothed it out again as if a second reading might change the words. It didn't. The cabin creaked. A normal sound, but tonight every noise was a threat. Matthew's heart pounded against his ribs like it wanted to escape. He glanced at the kitchen drawer, where he kept the old .38 revolver, a relic from his security days untouched for years. "Daddy," the small voice sent electricity through his spine. Matthew spun around, shoving the letter into his jeans pocket. 7-year-old Mia stood in the hallway, her stuffed rabbit dangling from one hand, eyes heavy with interrupted sleep. "Hey, sweetheart." He forced his voice to sound normal, steady. "Bad dream." Mia shook her head, brown curls bouncing. "I heard a noise." Matthew crossed the room in 3 strides, kneeling before his daughter. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, studying those innocent eyes. His entire world contained in this tiny human. The thought of anyone threatening that world made his hands shake with rage and fear. Just the storm pumpkin. Nothing to worry about. Lightning flashed, illuminating the cabin for a heartbeat. In that frozen moment, Matthew noticed the window behind Mia was slightly open, the one he always kept locked. "How about some hot chocolate?" He scooped her up, moving away from the window. Special daddy-daughter midnight snack. While Mia sipped her cocoa at the kitchen table, Matthew casually checked every lock, every window. The letter burned in his pocket like a live coal. How had they found him? It had been 3 years since Cypress Arms laid him off without warning. 3 years of scraping by as a handyman in this remote mountain town, trying to forget what he'd accidentally discovered on the company's server the day before they terminated him. Folder C7, Project Blackout. He'd only glimpsed it for seconds before the screen went dark. But those seconds were enough to recognize what no ordinary security guard should have seen. Matthew tucked Mia back into bed, waiting until her breathing deepened with sleep. Then he retrieved the battered laptop he kept under his bed. 3 years of silence had made him complacent, but something had changed. They were coming for him now. The ancient machine hummed to life. Matthew's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Hesitating, reaching out meant exposure, risk, but staying silent meant waiting for them to come. With a deep breath, he typed an email to the only journalist he'd ever trusted. "The people who developed Project Blackout have found me. I need help." As he hit send, thunder cracked overhead, nature's warning that the storm was only beginning. Morning broke with deceptive beauty. Sunlight filtered through pine trees, turning raindrops on the windows into tiny prisms. Matthew hadn't slept. His eyes burned as he packed Mia's lunch peanut butter sandwich cut into puzzle pieces and apple slices arranged in a smile. Normal routine, as if men weren't hunting them. "Extra juice box today?" Mia asked, appearing at his elbow in her favorite blue dress and mismatched socks. Matthew forced a smile. "You bet, kiddo." And he pulled a chocolate chip cookie from behind his back. "Don't tell your teacher." Mia's delighted giggle almost made him forget the danger. Almost. The drive to Pinewood Elementary took 12 minutes on normal days. Today, Matthew checked his rearview mirror 19 times. The silver sedan 3 cars back had followed every turn. Same driver baseball cap pulled low. "Daddy, you missed the turn." Mia's voice cut through his concentration. Matthew's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "Just taking the scenic route today." He made a sudden left, then a right, then another right. The sedan stayed with them, not even trying to be subtle. "Is this a game?" Mia asked, her voice brightening. Matthew's mind raced. "Yeah, sweetheart, like spy movies." He reached back and squeezed her knee. "Remember what we practiced for hide and seek?" Mia nodded solemnly. Their special game was actually emergency protocol if Matthew ever said the words ice cream sundae. Mia knew to run to the nearest adult woman and say she was lost. He pulled into the crowded school drop-off zone, cutting off a minivan. The driver honked. Matthew ignored it, scanning for teachers, parents, witnesses. Safety in numbers. Ms. Reynolds, Mia's teacher, waved from the curb. Matthew exhaled for what felt like the first time in minutes. "Have a good day at a school, pumpkin." He kissed her forehead, inhaling the scent of strawberry shampoo. I'll pick you up right here at 3:15, not a minute later. Promise? Mia held up her pinky finger. Cross my heart. He linked his pinky with hers, the ritual unchanged since she was 4. Remember, no talking to strangers. Even if they have puppies or candy, Mia recited, rolling her eyes with the worldliness of a second grader. He watched her skip toward Miss Reynolds' backpack bouncing. Only when she disappeared into the building did he allow himself to look for the silver sedan. It was parked across the street, waiting. Matthew drove straight to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Tom Landry had been his father's friend, had given Matthew odd jobs when he first moved back to town, with a baby and no prospects. If anyone would believe him, it would be Tom. The station was quiet, typical for a Tuesday morning in Riverdale. The receptionist, Betty, glanced up from her crossword puzzle. Matthew Burns, haven't seen you in ages. How's little Mia? Growing like a weed, he answered automatically. Is Tom in? Betty's smile dimmed. Oh, honey, you haven't heard. Tom retired last month. Moved to Arizona for his arthritis. Sheriff Wilson's in charge now. Matthew's stomach dropped. Wilson was new, unknown. Is he available? Let me check. Betty picked up her phone, but before she could dial, the front door opened. Cold air swept in, carrying with it the scent of rain and pine. Matthew turned. A woman stood in the doorway, early 30s, blonde hair cut in a practical bob. She wore hiking boots, jeans, and a windbreaker like any tourist might. But tourists didn't carry themselves with that kind of awareness. Tourists didn't scan a room for exits before fully entering. Their eyes met. Recognition flickered in hers, impossible because Matthew had never seen her before. He would have remembered. Can I help you, miss? Betty called. The woman broke eye contact, her posture instantly softening into something more casual, chameleon-like. Just looking for directions to Whitewater Falls, she said, her voice pleasant, neutral. My GPS keeps losing signal on these mountain roads. Oh, that happens all the time. Betty launched into detailed directions. Matthew moved toward the door. The woman shifted slightly, blocking his path. Their shoulders brushed. Careful, she murmured, voice barely audible. You're being watched. Before he could respond, she was thanking Betty and leaving the door swinging shut behind her. Matthew stood frozen. The warning delivered from a stranger confirmed his worst fears. But how did she know? Was she one of them or something else entirely? Did you still want to see Sheriff Wilson? Betty's voice seemed to come from far away. Matthew blinked. No, I just remembered another appointment. Thanks, Betty. Outside, the woman had vanished. The silver sedan remained across the street, a silent sentinel. Matthew walked to his truck, skin prickling with the sensation of being watched. As he reached for the door handle, he noticed something tucked under his windshield wiper, a business card. Natalie Walker, Wilderness Guide. For when you're lost in the woods, a phone number was handwritten on the back. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Another storm was coming. By evening, the rain had returned with vengeance. Matthew paced his small cabin, checking his watch every few minutes. He'd picked up Mia from school without incident, but the silver sedan had followed them home, parking a quarter-mile down the road. Watching. Waiting. He'd called the number on the card 3 times. No answer. Mia sat at the kitchen table, tongue between her teeth, as she concentrated on her homework. Matthew watched her, his chest tight with love and fear. Whatever storm was coming, he couldn't let it touch her. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Behind your cabin. Come alone. Information about C7. Matthew's pulse jumped. He glanced out the window toward the dark tree line. Rain lashed against the glass, obscuring his view. Mia, honey, I need to grab some firewood from the back. Keep working on those math problems. But it's raining, Daddy. Just for a minute. Lock the door behind me, okay? Don't open it for anyone but me. Mia frowned but nodded. Matthew grabbed his jacket and the revolver, tucking it into his waistband at the small of his back. He kissed Mia's head, then slipped it out the back door. The rain hit him like ice needles. Within seconds, he was drenched. The beam of his flashlight cut through darkness, bouncing off raindrops. The woodpile stood untouched. No one waited beside it. A twig snapped behind him. Matthew spun, hand reaching for his gun. The blonde woman from the sheriff's office stood 10 feet away, hands raised to show they were empty. Matthew Burns, she said, rain streaming down her face. We need to talk. Who are you? His voice was barely audible over the storm. My name is Natalie Walker. I'm with the National Cyber Defense Agency. Never heard of it. That's by design. She lowered her hand slowly. You're in danger. Tell me something I don't know. Matthew kept his hand near his waistband. Like how you know about C7. Lightning flashed, illuminating her face in stark relief. Because I helped create it. Before Matthew could process this, headlights swept across the trees. A vehicle approaching fast. Natalie's head snapped toward the light. They're here. We need to go. Now. I'm not going anywhere with you. Then you'll die here. Her voice was flat, factual. And your daughter will either die too, or worse, become leverage to make you talk. The sound of Mia's name on this stranger's lips sent ice through Matthew's veins. Don't you dare threaten my... I'm not threatening, I'm warning. Natalie stepped closer, her eyes intense. The men coming up that road won't hesitate to use her against you. They've done it before. An engine roared closer now. Gravel crunched under tires. We have 30 seconds, Natalie said. Trust me or don't, but decide now. Matthew looked toward his cabin. Through the kitchen window, he could see Mia bent over her homework, safe in a bubble of normalcy that was about to shatter. I need to get my daughter. Natalie nodded once. I'll create a diversion. Get her and meet me behind the shed. Bring only what you can carry in one trip. Before he could respond, she was sprinting toward the approaching vehicle, a small object in her hand. Matthew ran for the cabin. Behind him, he heard tires screech, then a muffled explosion. A flash of light reflected in the windows. Mia! He burst through the door. We need to go, right now. Daddy! Her eyes widened at his urgency. Remember our emergency backpack? Get it, quick as a bunny. While Mia ran to her closet, Matthew grabbed his laptop, the small lockbox with their documents and his gun. 30 seconds later, they were out the back door, Mia in his arms, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched to her chest. Shouts came from the front of the cabin. Flashlight beams cut through the rain, searching. Where are we going? Mia whispered, her small body trembling against his. On an adventure, Matthew answered, the lie bitter on his tongue. They reached the shed just as a figure materialized from the shadows. Mia shrieked. Matthew nearly drew his gun before recognizing Natalie. This way, she hissed, leading them deeper into the woods. A narrow path, invisible unless you knew it was there, wound between ancient trees. Twice Natalie stopped them, listening. Once Matthew heard men crashing through the undergrowth nearby. Mia buried her face against his neck, silent tears mixing with rainwater. After what felt like hours, they reached a small clearing. An SUV waited, engine off, lights dark. Get in, Natalie ordered, opening the back door. Matthew hesitated. How do I know this isn't a trap? You don't. Rain plastered her hair to her skull, making her look younger, more vulnerable. But they're tracking your truck's GPS. They know where your brother lives in Denver. They have the resources to find any known associate. Your only chance is to disappear with someone they don't know is connected to you. A child's cough punctuated the silence. From inside the SUV, Matthew tensed. Who else is here? Natalie's expression shifted minutely. My daughter Emma, she's 9. For the first time, uncertainty crossed her face, a flicker of the same fear Matthew felt daily, a parent's fear. He looked past her into the vehicle. A small figure huddled under a blanket in the back seat, face pale in the dim light. A girl with her mother's eyes and a spray of freckles across her nose. More shouts echoed through the forest. Closer now. Daddy, Mia's voice quavered. I'm scared. Decision made, Matthew slid into the back seat with Mia. Natalie jumped into the driver's seat and started the engine. Stay low, she ordered, killing the headlights. We're going off-road for the first mile. The SUV lurched forward, bouncing over roots and rocks. Matthew held Mia tight, whispering reassurances he didn't believe. Across the seat, Emma watched them with solemn eyes. Hi, she said, finally extending a hand toward Mia. I'm Emma. Are you running away from the bad men too? Mia nodded, reaching tentatively for Emma's hand. It's okay. Emma continued with the world-weary assurance of a child who had grown up too fast. My mom always has a plan. Matthew caught Natalie's eyes in the rearview mirror. Questions burned on his tongue, but he held them back. Not in front of the children. They drove in silence for 20 minutes, eventually reaching a paved road where Natalie finally turned on the headlights. Rain continued to pound the roof, a chaotic percussion matching Matthew's thoughts. Where are we going? He finally asked. Somewhere safe, Natalie replied, eyes on the winding road. A place they won't look. That's not an answer. It's all you get for now. Her voice softened slightly. Get some rest. We've got a long drive ahead. I want answers first. Matthew leaned forward, keeping his voice low enough that the girls couldn't hear. Starting with how you know about Project Blackout. Natalie's hands tightened on the wheel. I told you, I helped create it. You expect me to believe the government is developing a cyber weapon that can take down the entire power grid? That's terrorism, not defense. It wasn't supposed to be a weapon. For the first time, emotion cracked through her professional veneer of regret, maybe even guilt. It was meant to be a firewall, a defense system to protect critical infrastructure. But somewhere along the way, someone realized it could be reversed, weaponized. And that someone was Cypress Arms. It wasn't a question, Natalie nodded. They were contracted to help develop certain components, security systems initially. Then they started requesting access to core functions. By the time we realized what they were doing, they'd already created a backdoor. Matthew's mind raced. The day before I was fired, I was doing a routine security check. I accessed a server I wasn't supposed to access. Server 37B. Natalie glanced at him. We know, that's how you got on their radar. What did I see? Evidence. Communications between Cypress executives and foreign buyers. Project Blackout wasn't just being weaponized, it was being sold. To people who would use it. The implications hit Matthew like a physical blow. A cyber weapon that could plunge entire regions into darkness. Hospitals without power. Air traffic control systems down. Chaos. Why now, he asked. It's been 3 years. Because 3 days ago they succeeded in creating a fully functional prototype. And yesterday I stole it. Natalie reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small device no bigger than a credit card. This is the activation key. Without it, Blackout is useless. They want it back. And they think I have it. No, they know I have it. But they think you know where I'd go, who I'd contact. That's why they're after you. Matthew stared at the small device. So much danger in something so small. But I don't know you, he said slowly. I've never seen you before today. Natalie was silent for a long moment, rain drumming on the roof. In the back seat, the girls had fallen asleep, Emma's blanket now stretched across both children. Yes, you have, she finally said. 2 years ago, outside the Bluebird Diner on Route 9. It was raining like tonight. I was bleeding from a knife wound. You gave me your jacket, called me a cab, didn't ask questions. Matthew's breath caught. He remembered that night, a woman face pale with blood loss stumbling outside the diner. He'd been having a late dinner with Mia, had given the woman his jacket, made sure she got safely into a taxi. Never saw her again. That was you, Natalie nodded, eyes still on the road. I was working undercover at Cypress. My cover was blown. You helped me without knowing it. She paused. I never forgot that. The revelation settled between them, rearranging Matthew's understanding of their connection. Not strangers after all, ships that had passed in the night only to collide in a storm 2 years later. Why didn't you just tell me this from the beginning? Would you have believed me? She glanced at him. Or would you have thought it was a manipulation? Matthew had no answer. He looked back at Mia, peaceful in sleep, unaware that her world had just been upended. How many more times would he fail to protect her from chaos? So what happens now, he finally asked. Now we disappear until I can get this key to people I trust. People who can expose what Cypress is doing without getting killed in the process. And how long will that take? Natalie's silence was answer enough. Too long. Maybe forever. I have a life, Matthew said, voice tight. Mia has school friends. I can't just vanish. You already have. Natalie's voice was gentle but unyielding. The moment they connected you to me, your old life ended. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. The unfairness of it burned in Matthew's chest. One glimpse of a forbidden server, one act of kindness to a wounded stranger. And now this running in the night, everything left behind. There has to be another way, he insisted. We could go to the authorities. Cypress has people in every agency. How do you think they got the contracts in the first place? We'd be dead before we finished filling out the paperwork. The media then? Same problem. Plus, without proof, we're just conspiracy theorists. You have proof. Matthew nodded toward her pocket. That key. The key is worthless without access to their systems to demonstrate what it does. Natalie sighed. I'm working on a solution. But until then, we stay hidden. They drove in silence for several minutes, windshield wipers beating a hypnotic rhythm. Matthew watched the unfamiliar landscape blur past each mile, taking them further from everything he knew. How did you find me? He finally asked. After all this time, I kept tabs on you. At his look, she added, professionally, in case I ever needed to reach out. When I realized what Cyprus was planning, I tried to warn you. The warning was from you. Matthew sat up straighter. I thought it was a threat. It was meant to be a warning, to get out before they came for you. She shook her head. I was too late. A new thought struck Matthew. The silver sedan, following us all day. Not Cyprus, one of mine, trying to watch over you until I could make contact. The revelation that he'd been under surveillance, even protective surveillance for years, made Matthew's skin crawl. How many other eyes had been watching? How much of his life had been observed without his knowledge? Where exactly are we going? He asked again, more firmly this time. Natalie hesitated, then relented. A safe house in the mountains, off-grid, no digital footprint. We'll be secure there while I make arrangements. For what? To end this, her voice hardened. To take down the people who turned my defense system into a weapon. To make sure Cyprus Arms can never threaten anyone again. The conviction in her voice was absolute. This wasn't just a mission for her, it was personal. Why? Matthew asked quietly. Why risk your life, your daughter's life, for this? Natalie's eyes met his in the rearview mirror, and in them, Matthew saw the same fierce protectiveness he felt for Mia. Because 2 years ago, a similar weapon was deployed in a controlled test. A small town in Oregon, power grid down for 3 days. 17 people died when the hospital generators failed, including my husband. Understanding dawned. That's why you were undercover at Cyprus. Not just assignment. Revenge. Justice, she corrected. And prevention. What happened in Oregon was a test run. The full version of blackout could affect entire regions. Thousands would die. The SUV began to climb winding up mountain roads increasingly obscured by mist and rain. The girls slept on, oblivious to the weight of the conversation happening inches away. We'll reach the safe house before dawn, Natalie said. You should try to sleep. Matthew knew he couldn't, not with the world tilting beneath him, reality rewritten by each new revelation. But he leaned back in his seat, watching raindrops race across the window, each one chased by another in endless pursuit. One more question, he said softly. Why did you bring Emma with you? Why not leave her somewhere safe before taking the key? Pain flashed across Natalie's face so quick he almost missed it. They took her once before, she said, voice barely audible. To control me. I got her back, but I won't risk it again. Where I go, she goes. The admission hung in the air, raw and vulnerable. Not just agent and civilian now, but two parents trying to protect their children in an impossible situation. Matthew closed his eyes, not to sleep but to process. His life had been upended in less than 24 hours. Everything he thought he knew about his past, about the world, had been rewritten. And now he was fleeing into the unknown, with a woman he barely knew carrying a device that powerful people would kill to retrieve. A soft sound made him open his eyes. In the back seat, Mia had curled closer to Emma, the two girls instinctively seeking comfort in sleep. Emma's arm draped protectively over the younger child. Matthew's throat tightened. In the driver's seat, Natalie continued, her vigilant watch eyes scanning the road, the mirrors, the shadows between trees. Ready for any threat. Matthew recognized the hyper-awareness he'd felt it every day since becoming a single parent. The constant vigilance. The knowledge that another life depended entirely on your protection. Maybe they weren't so different after all. The SUV rounded a curve, headlights illuminating a wall of fog ahead. Natalie slowed but didn't stop pressing forward into the unknown. Matthew watched her hands on the wheel, steady, capable, certain. For the first time since finding the letter, he allowed himself to believe they might survive this. Lightning flashed overhead, closer now. The storm was intensifying. The safe house appeared through the mist like a ghost, a weathered cabin built into the mountainside, nearly invisible among the pines. Natalie killed the engine and sat motionless, scanning the surroundings. Only after a full minute did she nod, satisfied. We're clear, for now. The girls woke as they were carried inside, blinking in confusion at the strange surroundings. While Natalie secured the perimeter, Matthew explored the cabin Spartan, but equipped with essentials: generator, wood stove, non-perishable food. Two bedrooms, the smaller, with bunk beds that made Emma's eyes light up. Top or bottom? She asked Mia, suddenly animated. Top, Mia answered shyly. I'll help you up, Emma offered, taking charge with the confidence of an older child. I sleep on top at home, too. Matthew watched them climb the ladder together, Mia clutching her rabbit. Children adapted so quickly. If only adults could do the same. After settling the girls, Matthew found Natalie in the main room, spreading items across a worn table: laptops, phones, what looked like signal jammers, and weapons. More than he expected. You came prepared, he observed. I've been planning this extraction for months, she replied without looking up. Just didn't know you'd be part of it. Lucky me. The bitterness in his voice was impossible to hide. Natalie paused, meeting his eyes. I'm sorry you're involved, but we're here now. A small device on the table beeped. Natalie frowned, grabbing a tablet. What is it? Matthew asked. Perimeter alert. Something tripped the sensor a mile out. Them. Could be wildlife. She didn't sound convinced. But we should prepare for the worst. Matthew's stomach nodded. How could they have found us so quickly? Natalie's expression darkened. Let me see your phone. It's off. Give it to me anyway. He handed it over. Natalie removed the battery, then used a small tool to pry open the casing. She extracted a tiny metallic object no larger than a grain of rice. Tracker, she said grimly. Military grade. When did you get this phone? 3 months ago, new contract. Who sold it to you? Local shop in town. Digital Life. Matthew's blood ran cold as realization dawned. Owned by a guy named Marcus. Ex-military. Always gave me discounts. He was their plant. Natalie crushed the tracker under her boot. They've been watching you longer than I thought. But why I'm nobody? Just a security guard who saw something I shouldn't have. Not just that. Natalie hesitated, then pulled a folder from her bag. There's something I didn't tell you. She opened it, revealing photos. Server rooms, circuit boards, lines of code. What am I looking at? Project Blackout's architecture. Natalie pointed to a signature on one blueprint. Look familiar. The name jumped out like a slap. Daniel Burns. My father. Matthew's voice cracked. That's impossible. He was a structural engineer. He died when I was in college. He was more than that. Natalie's voice softened. Your father designed the core routing systems Blackout is built on. Systems Cypress stole after his death. They've been hunting for his backup files ever since. The floor seemed to tilt beneath Matthew's feet. They don't want me, he whispered. They want what I might know about his work. Yes, Natalie met his gaze steadily. And now they're coming. For all of us. Matthew stared at his father's signature until the lines blurred. His chest felt hollow, each breath shallower than the last. The world he thought he knew kept dissolving, replaced by darker truths. You're lying, the words escaped before he could stop them. My father built bridges, not weapons. He built both. Natalie's voice remained gentle but firm. Daniel Burns had a public career and a classified one. Most of his government work was compartmentalized. Even he didn't know the full scope of what he was creating. A crash from outside silenced them both. Natalie moved with lethal efficiency, extinguishing lights, grabbing a tactical rifle and motioning Matthew toward the girls' room. Stay with them, she whispered. Lock the door. Use this if necessary. She pressed a handgun into his palm. Matthew's fingers closed around the weapon automatically. What about you? I'll handle it. Something in her eyes shifted, the mother receding, the agent emerging. If I'm not back in 20 minutes, there's a tunnel access in the pantry floor. Take the girls and go east through the forest. There's a ranger station 3 miles downhill. Before he could respond, Natalie slipped out the front door, vanishing into darkness like a ghost. Matthew hurried to the girls' room, forcing a smile as 2 pairs of eyes blinked up at him. Everything okay, Daddy? Mia asked, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Just fine, Pumpkin. He tucked the gun into his waistband, hidden beneath his shirt. Ms. Walker's checking outside. Thought I heard a raccoon. Emma's gaze, too perceptive for a 9-year-old, tracked his movements. My mom always says that, too. Matthew swallowed hard. Says what? That things are fine when they're not. She hugged her knees to her chest. It's okay, I know the drill. The casual acceptance in her voice broke something in Matthew's heart. This child had grown up in a war zone, not of bombs and bullets, but of secrets and surveillance, just like Mia would now. Come here, you two. He sat on the edge of the bottom bunk, opening his arms. Both girls nestled against him. Let me tell you a story while we wait. He spun a tale about brave forest animals outsmarting hunters while straining to hear sounds from outside. 10 minutes passed. 15. His palms grew slick with sweat. At 18 minutes, a floorboard creaked in the main room. Matthew tensed, gently extracting himself from the girls. Stay here, he whispered. Don't make a sound. He drew the gun, heart hammering against his ribs. The bedroom door seemed miles away. Each step forward required monumental effort. His hand trembled as it reached for the knob. The door swung open. Natalie stood there, blood streaming from a gash above her eye. Her jacket was torn, mud smeared across her face and hands. But she was alive. It's clear, she said, voice ragged. Oh, what happened? Advanced scout. One man. She wiped blood from her forehead with her sleeve. He won't be reporting back. The flat statement hung in the air between them. Matthew's mind supplied the unspoken reality Natalie had killed someone. Tonight, protecting them. The girls, he began, need to be ready to move at first light. Natalie checked her watch. That gives us 4 hours to prepare. They'll send more when their scout doesn't check in. Matthew followed her back to the main room, mind reeling. Where will we go? I have another safe house, deeper in the mountains. Natalie winced as she shrugged off her jacket, revealing a spreading blood stain on her upper arm. But first I need to deal with this. Without asking for help, she retrieved a first aid kit from her backpack and began cutting away her sleeve. Matthew watched, torn between offering assistance and maintaining distance from this woman who could kill with such efficiency. Compassion won out. Let me. He took the scissors from her hand, carefully cutting the fabric to expose a deep laceration. Knife, he asked, keeping his voice clinical. Yes. She didn't elaborate. Matthew cleaned the wound with practiced movements. He'd patched up enough injuries on construction sites to know the basics. This needs stitches. There's a suture kit in the bottom compartment. The casual way she said it, like requesting a Band-Aid, told Matthew volumes about her life. While he threaded the curved needle, he studied her face. Despite the pain she must be feeling, her expression remained composed, focused. I've never done this before, he admitted. Not on a person. A ghost of a smile touched her lips. First time for everything. As he worked on closing the wound, the silence between them grew heavy with unasked questions. Finally, Matthew couldn't contain them anymore. My father, he said, tying off another stitch. How much do you know? Natalie's eyes met his. Enough. He was brilliant, principled. He believed he was creating defensive systems to protect critical infrastructure. And was he? She hesitated. Initially, yes. The original Project Blackout was designed to isolate and protect power grids during cyber attacks to create blackout zones that would contain breaches. When did it change? After his death. Natalie winced as the needle pierced skin again. Cypress Arms acquired his research through a series of shell companies. They inverted his design, turned a shield into a sword. Matthew's hand stilled. The accident? Was it really an accident? The question had haunted him for years. His father's car plunging off a mountain road one rainy night. No witnesses, no explanation. Natalie's silence was answer enough. Did you know, his voice hardened. When you recruited me at the diner that night, did you know who I was? No, she shook her head. That was genuine coincidence. I was injured, compromised. You helped me. She paused. I only made the connection later when I was reviewing personnel files from Cyprus and saw your name, your father's name. And you've been watching me ever since. Protecting you, she corrected. When I realized who you were, I knew they'd eventually come for you too. Matthew tied off the final stitch, then covered the wound with gauze. His hands were steady, but his mind churned with implications. The files, he said suddenly. You think my father hid backup files somewhere? I know he did. Natalie rolled her shoulder, testing his handiwork. He told his handler he'd created fail-safe's insurance in case the project was ever weaponized. And you think I know where they are? I don't. Not consciously, perhaps. She leaned forward, intensity radiating from her. But your father was clever. He wouldn't have left obvious breadcrumbs. Think Matthew. Did he ever give you anything unusual? A key, a drive, coordinates? Matthew shook his head, frustrated. Nothing. We weren't even that close after my mother died. He buried himself in work. Disappointment flickered across Natalie's face, quickly masked. There has to be something. I'm sorry. The words felt inadequate against the weight of her expectations. Natalie nodded once, accepting the setback with the same stoicism she'd shown toward her physical injury. Rest while you can. I'll keep watch. Matthew hesitated, unwilling to leave her alone. Your arm will be fine. Her tone brooked no argument. Check on the girls. They need you more than I do. He knew a dismissal when he heard one. As he turned toward the hallway, a strange memory surfaced: his father's last birthday gift, a month before the accident. A beautiful wooden box, hand-carved with an odd locking mechanism. Inside, a collection of river stones, each with a number etched into it. Matthew had assumed they were merely decorative, a reference to their fishing trips. My father gave me a box, he said slowly, before he died, with numbered stones inside. Natalie's head snapped up. Where is it now? In storage, a unit in Denver where I keep things that won't fit in the cabin. Hope kindled in her eyes. That could be it. Coordinates maybe, or a code. Or just rocks, Matthew cautioned, not wanting to feed false hope. We need that box. Determination hardened her features. But Denver's too risky now. They'll be watching all your known locations. Matthew ran a hand through his hair, exhaustion settling into his bones. So what do? We adjust. Natalie reached for a map, spreading it across the table. Change of plans. Instead of the other safe house, we head to Denver, but not directly. It's too dangerous, Matthew protested. You said yourself, everything is dangerous now. Natalie traced a route with her finger. But those stones might be our only leverage. The only way to end this instead of just running forever. The thought of Mia growing up like Emma, alert to every shadow, versed in escape routes, solidified Matthew's resolve. Okay, he agreed. Denver. But we do it my way. I know people there. People Cyprus wouldn't connect to me. Natalie studied him, evaluating. Who? My ex-wife's brother. We stayed close after she died. He owns a garage on the outskirts of town. Off the books kind of place. Can he be trusted? With our lives. Matthew's certainty was absolute. He helped me disappear after Cyprus fired me. New ID, new plates for my truck. Never asked questions. For the first time since they'd met, Natalie yielded control. Your call then. We leave at dawn. Matthew nodded, then headed to check on the girls. He found them both asleep on the bottom bunk, Mia curled against Emma like puppies seeking warmth. His daughter's stuffed rabbit had migrated to Emma's arms, while Emma's blanket covered them both. The sight pierced him with equal parts tenderness and terror. These children, innocent and vulnerable, now caught in a deadly game orchestrated by powerful men in distant boardrooms. Men who had likely murdered his father. Men who wouldn't hesitate to use these girls as pawns. He leaned against the doorframe, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him like a physical force. In the main room, he could hear Natalie moving around, checking weapons, securing their gear, preparing for war. Matthew had never wanted to be a soldier. He'd chosen security work for its stability, its routine, a safe career for a single father. Now he was being drafted into a battle he barely understood, with stakes higher than he could comprehend. But looking at Mia's peaceful face, he knew he had no choice. He would fight. For her, for Emma, for the memory of his father. Even if it meant becoming someone he never thought he'd be. Dawn arrived with muted gray light filtering through pine branches. They moved with practiced efficiency, Natalie from habit, Matthew from necessity. The girls, sensing the adults' tension, remained quiet and compliant, eating energy bars without complaint. We take the mountain roads, Natalie explained as they loaded the SUV. Avoid cameras, toll booths. It's longer but safer. Matthew nodded, securing the girls in the back seat. What about your scout from last night? Won't they find him? Eventually? Natalie's voice was neutral. But I bought us time. He didn't ask how. Some details were better left unimagined. They departed as the first birds began their morning songs, the SUV crawling down overgrown fire roads before connecting with the county highways. Natalie drove her injured arm, apparently no impediment. Matthew sat tense in the passenger seat, scanning for threats. In the back, Emma had produced a deck of cards from somewhere, teaching Mia a simple game. Their whispered explanations and occasional giggles created a surreal contrast to the adults' vigilance. 3 hours into the journey, Natalie broke the silence. We need to ditch this vehicle soon. It's possibly compromised. Ray, my ex-brother-in-law, can help with that. He's got connections. Good. She glanced in the rear-view mirror. The girls are holding up well. Matthew followed her gaze. They shouldn't have to. No, she agreed softly. They shouldn't. Another hour passed. The mountain landscape gradually gave way to foothills, then suburbs. Denver's skyline appeared on the horizon, a steel and glass mirage. Natalie tensed as they approached civilization. We're more exposed here. Eyes everywhere. Take the next exit, Matthew directed. Ray's place is off Industrial Boulevard. She complied, navigating through increasingly dense traffic. Matthew felt naked visible. After days in isolation, the presence of so many people, so many potential threats, was overwhelming. Ray's garage appeared ahead, a sprawling compound of corrugated metal buildings surrounded by a chain-link fence. Cars in various states of repair filled the yard, a perfect hiding place. Natalie pulled around back as Matthew instructed. A burly man with a salt and pepper beard emerged from a side door, wiping his hands on a rag. His eyes widened at the sight of Matthew. Matt, Jesus, man, what are you? His gaze shifted to Natalie, then the girls in the back. Understanding dawned. Trouble. The worst kind, Matthew confirmed, climbing out. Need to go dark for a few days. Ray nodded once. No questions, no hesitation. Just immediate acceptance and assistance. Inside. Now. They followed him through a maze of dismantled engines and car frames to a small apartment above the main garage. It was sparse but clean, a hideout disguised as living quarters. Bathrooms through there, kitchen stocked. Ray gestured around. Security cameras cover every approach. Motion sensors on the perimeter. Natalie raised an eyebrow, impressed. Professional setup. Ex-military, Ray explained with a shrug. Old habits. We need to access a storage unit, Matthew said, without being seen. Ray considered this. Whose name is it under mine, but using my middle name, Joseph Burns. Location, Aslock Storage on 47th. Ray frowned. Heavy surveillance there. New owners installed cameras last year. He thought for a moment. I can get you in through the service tunnels. Used to do maintenance there. Hope surged in Matthew's chest. Went home. Tonight, after dark. Ray's eyes darted to the girls now exploring the apartment. They should stay here. Natalie immediately tensed. My daughter stays with me. Ray met her gaze unflinching. Your call, ma'am, but tunnels are tight, dirty, and if something goes wrong, the unfinished thought hung in the air. Natalie's jaw tightened, the battle between parent and operative playing out on her face. I'll stay with them, Ray offered. Place is secure as a bunker. Matthew touched Natalie's arm lightly. Ray's good people. I trust him with Mia. Something passed between them, a moment of understanding, of shared vulnerability. Finally, Natalie nodded. Emma, she called softly. Come here, sweetheart. The girl approached, her expression already resigned. She knew what was coming. Natalie knelt to eye level. Mommy has to go somewhere tonight, just for a little while. Is it dangerous? Emma asked matter-of-factly. No more than usual. The casual lie flowed easily from Natalie's lips. Emma studied her mother's face, then nodded. I'll watch Mia. Matthew's heart constricted at the role reversal, the child comforting the parent, promising protection instead of receiving it. He saw Natalie blink rapidly, fighting emotion. That's my brave girl. She pressed a kiss to Emma's forehead. Remember the rules. Stay quiet, stay hidden, no windows, no phones. Emma recited, and if someone bad comes, use the emergency signal. Natalie nodded, squeezing her daughter's shoulders. I'll be back before you know it. Matthew turned to Mia, crouching beside her. Hey, Pumpkin, you're going to have a sleepover with Emma while I run an errand with Ms. Walker. Are the bad men still looking for us? Mia's direct question caught him off guard. He hesitated, then answered honestly. Yes, but they won't find us here, and Mr. Ray will keep you safe. Mia clutched her rabbit tighter. When can we go home? The innocent question pierced Matthew's heart. Soon, he lied. But right now, we're having an adventure, remember? She nodded solemnly. A scary adventure. Sometimes the best stories are a little scary. He forced a smile. But they always have happy endings. Another lie, but necessary. Ray provided them with darker clothes caps to hide their faces. As dusk fell, he outlined the plan: a service entrance, 2 blocks from the storage facility, maintenance tunnels running beneath an emergency exit that would place them inside the compound. Security patrol passes every hour, he explained. You'll have a 15-minute window between sweeps. Weapons? Natalie asked. Ray opened a cabinet, revealing an impressive arsenal. Take your pick. She selected a compact 9mm with a suppressor. Matthew opted for something smaller, more concealable. As they prepared to leave, Natalie pulled Emma aside for one final embrace. Matthew did the same with Mia, inhaling the scent of her hair, committing it to memory. Back soon, pumpkin. Be good for Emma and Mr. Ray. I will. Mia's small fingers wrapped around his. Be careful, Daddy. Always am. The night air carried a chill as they slipped out the back entrance. Ray handed Matthew a set of night vision goggles. 30 minutes, Ray reminded them. Then I start worrying. Matthew nodded, throat tight. Take care of my girl. With my life, Ray promised. They disappeared into the shadows, moving silently through back alleys and service roads. Natalie took point, her movements fluid and purposeful. Matthew followed, hyper-aware of every sound, every shifting shadow. The service entrance Ray had described was hidden behind a dumpster, a rusted door with a faded maintenance-only sign. The lock yielded easily to Natalie's picks. Inside, the tunnel stretched before them, dark and damp. Their breathing echoed against concrete walls as they navigated by the green glow of night vision. Your brother-in-law, Natalie whispered as they walked. He's more than just a mechanic. Ex-Delta, Matthew confirmed. Retired after 3 tours. Julie, my wife, never talked about his service. Said it changed him. War does that. Her voice held personal knowledge. They continued in silence, counting turns as Ray had instructed. Left, right, straight for 50 yards, then right again. The air grew staler, thicker with dust and abandonment. Finally, they reached a metal ladder leading upward. According to Ray, it would emerge inside a maintenance closet within the storage facility. I'll go first, Natalie insisted, already climbing. Cover me if needed. Matthew watched her ascend, noting how she favored her uninjured arm. At the top, she pressed her ear against the trapdoor, listening intently before pushing upward with agonizing slowness. A sliver of dim light appeared. Natalie peered through, then pushed the door fully open and pulled herself up. After a tense moment, her face reappeared in the opening. Clear, she whispered. Come up. The maintenance closet was cramped and musty. Cleaning supplies lined metal shelves untouched for months. Natalie cracked the door, scanning the corridor beyond. Which unit? She asked. 317, Matthew replied. End of the South Hall. They slipped into the corridor, moving swiftly between pools of security lighting. Cameras were mounted at intervals, but Ray had identified their blind spots with professional precision. Unit 317 appeared ahead, a standard roll-up door with a padlock. Matthew produced a key from his pocket, hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The lock clicked open. He lifted the door slowly, wincing at every metallic sound. Inside, cardboard boxes and furniture draped in sheets created a maze of forgotten possessions. What are we looking for? Natalie asked, sweeping her flashlight across the space. Wooden chest, about this big, Matthew indicated with his hands. It would be in the back with Julie's things. They moved deeper into the unit shifting boxes, uncovering memories Matthew had packed away years ago. His wedding photo, Mia's crib, Julie's medical records from her losing battle with cancer. Here, Natalie's voice cut through his thoughts. She stood before a wooden trunk, hand resting on its curved lid. But it wasn't the box Matthew had described. This was larger, older, his father's military footlocker. That's not it, he said, frowning, but I don't remember storing this here. He knelt beside it, examining the padlock. It looked new compared to the weathered trunk. I don't have a key for this. Natalie produced a set of picks from her jacket. Allow me. The lock surrendered after 30 seconds of manipulation. Matthew lifted the lid, revealing neatly organized contents, military memorabilia, medals, photographs of his father in uniform. I've never seen these, he murmured, lifting a purple heart. He never talked about his service. Many don't, Natalie replied softly. Beneath the memorabilia lay a sealed envelope yellowed with age. Matthew's name was written across it in his father's precise handwriting. With trembling fingers, he broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper covered in numbers and a brief note. Matthew, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you found trouble. The stones in your birthday box are the key. Arrangement matters. What I built to protect has been twisted to destroy. Find the backup. Finish what I started. I'm sorry for the secrets. For the distance, everything was to keep you safe, Dad. Matthew stared at the cryptic message, emotions churning. Anger at the secrets, grief for the relationship they never had, pride in his father's apparent principles. The box, he said urgently. We need to find the box. They resumed searching, tossing aside sheets and opening containers with increasing desperation. The minutes ticked by, their window closing with each passing second. There. Matthew spotted a familiar shape beneath an old blanket. He lunged for it, pulling free the hand-carved box his father had given him. It was exactly as he remembered, polished oak with an intricate locking mechanism. Inside, 7 smooth river stones rested in velvet depressions, each etched with a number. This is it, he breathed. Natalie examined the stones, then the paper from the envelope. Coordinates maybe, or a cipher key. I don't know, but we need to... A sound from the corridor silenced them both. Footsteps, radio static. Security patrol, Natalie whispered. Early. They froze, flashlights extinguished. Matthew clutched the box to his chest, heart hammering. The footsteps grew louder, then paused directly outside their unit. A beam of light swept beneath the door, probing the darkness. The radio crackled. Unit 317 secure, a voice reported, continuing sweep. And the footsteps resumed, fading down the corridor. Matthew released his breath, shoulders sagging with relief. That was too close, he whispered. We need to go. Natalie nodded, already repacking the footlocker to hide evidence of their search. She paused, frowning at something in the bottom corner. What is this? She lifted a plastic ID badge. Even in the dim light, the logo was unmistakable: Cypress Arms. Matthew took it, turning it over in his hands. His father's face stared back at him alongside the title, Director Project Blackout. I don't understand, Matthew said, voice hollow. He worked for them. Natalie's expression shifted, a complex calculation happening behind her eyes. This changes things. What things? A cold dread spread through Matthew's chest. Instead of answering, Natalie reached for her phone, a direct violation of their security protocol. She typed rapidly, body language suddenly transformed. What are you doing? Matthew demanded. Adjusting parameters. Her voice had changed, clinical, detached, professional in a way he hadn't heard before. Natalie, what's going on? She looked up, and the woman who met his gaze was a stranger. Your father wasn't just involved in Project Blackout, Matthew. He created it, not as a defensive system, as a weapon, from the beginning. The floor seemed to tilt beneath him. No, that contradicts everything you've told me. I told you what you needed to hear to cooperate. She straightened, all pretense of injury gone from her movements. The arm he had so carefully stitched now moved with perfect fluidity. The wound, theatrical blood, useful for gaining sympathy. She pocketed her phone. Your father wasn't a victim, Matthew. He was the architect, the visionary. Cypress didn't steal his work. They inherited it when he grew a conscience too late. Matthew's mind raced, reassessing every conversation, every revelation since they'd met. And who do you really work for? That's complicated. Natalie, or whoever she was, gestured to the badge. But suffice to say, we have mutual interest in recovering your father's failsafe. Emma, the question emerged as barely a whisper, a flicker of emotion, the first genuine reaction he'd seen. My daughter. That part is real. The rest? She shrugged. Operational necessity. Betrayal burned through Matthew like acid. You used me, my daughter. I protected you, she corrected sharply. If I'd wanted to harm you, I could have done it a dozen times over. Then what do you want? The same thing I've always wanted, the fail-safe, the backup your father created before he died. She nodded toward the box in his hands, which you just helped me find. Matthew clutched the box tighter. And if I don't give it to you? Natalie's expression softened fractionally. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Emma and Mia are waiting. Let's keep them out of this. The implicit threat hung in the air between them. Matthew's finger twitched toward his concealed weapon. Natalie noticed her own hand shifting subtly toward hers. Don't, she warned softly. You won't win that contest. A new sound interrupted the standoff, multiple footsteps approaching rapidly from both directions. Too many for a standard security patrol. Natalie tensed. We have company. Your people, Matthew asked, still processing the betrayal. No. Natalie's expression hardened into something dangerous. Cyprus, we've been compromised. Despite everything, Matthew recognized genuine alarm in her voice. Whatever game she was playing, this development wasn't part of it. We need to move, now. She gathered their supplies with military efficiency. Tunnel exits our only option. Why should I trust you? Matthew demanded, though he was already backing toward the maintenance closet box clutched to his chest. Because at this moment, we both want the same thing: to get out alive. She gestured impatiently. Questions later. Movement now. The logic was irrefutable. Matthew followed her to the maintenance closet, descending the ladder, as footsteps and voices grew louder behind them. Natalie dropped down after him, pulling the trapdoor closed just as flashlight beams swept the closet above. They raced through the tunnels, no longer concerned with stealth. Their footsteps echoed off concrete walls, marking their passage for anyone listening. Matthew's lungs burned the wooden box clutched awkwardly against his side. Who are you really, he gasped between breaths. National Intelligence Directorate, she replied without breaking stride. Special Projects Division. Never heard of it. That's the point. She took a sharp left turn. We're the oversight that has no oversight. In Cyprus, private contractors gone rogue. They took your father's weapon and planned to auction it to the highest bidder. So you weren't lying about that part. I rarely lie completely, she said with grim humor. Half-truths are more sustainable. They reached a junction, concrete tunnels stretching in 3 directions. Natalie hesitated, consulting a mental map. This way, she decided, veering right. Matthew followed, mind racing. If my father created blackout as a weapon, why would he build a fail-safe? Remorse, Natalie replied simply. He realized what he'd done too late, tried to mitigate the damage. A crash echoed behind them, the trapdoor being discovered. Voices reverberated through the tunnels, distorted by concrete and distance. They're in the maintenance tunnels. Seal all exits, Natalie cursed under her breath, accelerating. Exits compromised. We need an alternative. There, Matthew pointed to a rusted ladder leading upward. Ventilation shaft. Might connect to the surface. Without hesitation, Natalie began climbing. Matthew followed the box, hampering his movements. Above them, a metal grate blocked the shaft. Natalie braced herself against the ladder and kicked upward. Once, twice. On the third impact, the grate gave way. They emerged in an alley behind a liquor store, the night air sweet after the tunnel's musty confines. Distant sirens wailed, growing closer. They've alerted local authorities, Natalie observed grimly. We need transportation. Matthew scanned their surroundings, orienting himself. This way, 3 blocks to Ray's garage. They stuck to shadows, avoiding main streets. Matthew's thoughts churned with each step. Nothing made sense anymore. His father, the ethical engineer, the distant parent, had created a weapon of mass destruction. Natalie, the protective agent, the devoted mother, had manipulated him from the start. And where did that leave him and Mia? The girls, he said suddenly. If Cyprus found us at the storage unit, Ray's place is secure, Natalie interrupted, and my people are already en route as backup. Your people who don't officially exist? Exactly. She glanced at him. I know you feel betrayed, Matthew, but everything I've done has been to contain this situation. By lying to me. By managing you. Her voice softened fractionally. Would you have helped if I'd told you your father was responsible for creating a weapon that could cripple entire nations? The question hung between them, unanswerable. They continued in tense silence, each lost in private calculations. Ray's garage appeared ahead, dark and seemingly undisturbed. No obvious security presence. No signs of intrusion. But something felt wrong. The hairs on Matthew's neck prickled with warning. Wait! He grabbed Natalie's arm. Something's not right. She stilled immediately, scanning the compound with professional assessment. What do you see? Nothing. That's the problem. Matthew pointed to the security lights. They should be on. Ray never turns them off, not even during daylight. Natalie's expression tightened. Could be a power failure. Or a deliberate cut. Matthew pulled out his phone, dialing Ray's secure line. No answer. Without discussion, they altered their approach, circling to the building's blind side where delivery trucks normally parked. A chain-link fence separated them from the compound. "I'll go first," Natalie whispered. "Cover the box." Before Matthew could protest, she scaled the fence with impressive agility, dropping silently to the other side. She gestured for him to follow. The wooden box made climbing awkward, but Matthew managed. They crept toward the main building, skirting pools of darkness that shouldn't have existed. A side door hung partially open, another red flag. Ray was fanatical about security. Nothing was ever left unlocked, even inside the compound. Natalie drew her weapon, motioning Matthew behind her. They entered slowly, every sense straining for danger. The garage's interior was preternaturally silent. No music from Ray's ever-present radio. No humming of power tools or computers. They ascended the stairs to the apartment, each step amplified in the stillness. The door at the top stood ajar, darkness beyond. Matthew's heart hammered against his ribs, dread crystallizing into certainty. Something was very wrong. The apartment was in chaos. Furniture overturned, glass shattered across the floor, signs of a violent struggle, and blood. Too much blood smeared across the wall in crimson streaks. "Mia." Matthew's control shattered. He rushed forward, caution abandoned. "MIA." "Matthew, wait," Natalie hissed, but he was beyond listening. He tore through the apartment, checking every room, every closet, under every bed. Nothing. No bodies, but no children either. No Ray, just emptiness and evidence of violence. He returned to the main room, finding Natalie kneeling beside a pool of blood, expression grim as she examined something small in fabric. Mia's stuffed rabbit, one arm torn off stuffing, spilling onto the floor, soaked in blood. Matthew's knees gave out. He collapsed against the wall, the wooden box falling forgotten from his hands. A sound escaped him, not quite a scream. Something primal torn from the depths of his soul. Natalie crossed to him, gripping his shoulders with surprising strength. "Listen to me," she said, voice commanding attention. "This isn't Mia's blood. It's too much, and there are no bodies, which means they're still alive." "You don't know that," Matthew whispered, eyes fixed on the mutilated toy. "I do." She forced his gaze to meet hers. "This is staged, designed to break you. If they wanted them dead, we'd have found them." "Then where are they?" His voice cracked. "Taken. Leverage." Natalie's expression hardened. "They want the box, Matthew. The fail-safe. That's what this is about." As if summoned by her words, Matthew's phone buzzed. An unknown number. He answered with shaking hands. "Burns," a male voice unfamiliar and clinical. "I believe I have something of yours." Ice flooded Matthew's veins. "If you've heard her, your daughter is unharmed. For now, the same applies to Agent Walker's child and your associate." Matthew's eyes met Natalie's. She nodded once, confirming the caller's identity without speaking. "What do you want?" Matthew asked, though he already knew. "The box and its contents, unaltered and complete." "How do I know they're alive?" A pause, then Mia's voice came through, small and frightened. "Daddy, I want to come home." "Mia," Matthew clutched the phone tighter. "Baby, are you okay? Are you hurt?" "I'm scared, Daddy. There are men with guns." The male voice returned. "Satisfied you have 1 hour to deliver the box to the coordinates we'll send. Come alone. No law enforcement, no NID involvement, or the children die first." The call disconnected. Seconds later, a text arrived with GPS coordinates. Matthew stared at the phone, then at Natalie. "You heard?" "Yes." Her face had transformed, all pretense stripped away. What remained was something terrifying, not a mother's panic, but a predator's focused rage. "They've miscalculated." "They have our children," Matthew exploded. "How is that a miscalculation?" "Because they've given us something more precious than leverage." Natalie retrieved the wooden box from the floor. "They've given us clarity. No more divided loyalties. No more separate agendas." She was right, Matthew realized. Whatever secrets, whatever lies had come before, none of it mattered now. There was only one objective: getting their children back safely. "What's the play?" he asked, soldier to soldier. "They'll be expecting a trap," Natalie replied, examining the box. "So we'll give them exactly what they expect, just not where they expect it." She opened the box, studying the numbered stones. "These are the key to the fail-safe. Your father designed a dead man's switch. If activated, it would release all Project Blackout documentation to major news outlets worldwide. How do you know this? Because we've been hunting for it since his death. Natalie arranged the stones in numerical order. Cyprus wants to destroy it. My agency wants to control it. And what do you want? She looked up, eyes cold with purpose. Right now, to burn Cyprus to the ground. Matthew nodded slowly. Where do we start? By understanding this. She gestured to the box. Your father was brilliant but sentimental. The key won't be complex coding or advanced cryptography. It will be something personal, something only you would understand. Matthew studied the stones' memories stirring. River stones, collected on fishing trips, their rare moments of connection. Each trip, he'd let me choose one stone to take home, he murmured. Said they were pieces of time we could keep. He picked up the first stone, turning it in his palm. The etched number was familiar somehow. Wait, Matthew grabbed his phone, pulling up the calendar. These aren't just numbers. They're dates, our fishing trips. Understanding dawn. The arrangement matters, he quoted from his father's note. Not numerical order, chronological order. He rearranged the stones by date. The pattern formed a simple sequence, a GPS coordinate. Lookout point, he realized. On the river where we fished. There's a cave behind the waterfall. Dad showed it to me once, said it was our secret place. Natalie nodded, already plotting. The failsafe must be hidden there. She checked her watch. The exchange point they provided is 20 minutes from here. The river is 40 minutes in the opposite direction. They'll have the exchange location under surveillance, Matthew thought aloud. Probably already watching it. Yes, which is why you'll go there exactly as instructed. While you go to the river, Matthew finished, following her logic, they'll focus on me giving you time to retrieve the failsafe. No, Natalie's expression hardened. You go to the river, I'll handle the exchange. But they specifically said me, lone. Precisely why it should be me. Natalie's voice left no room for argument. I'm trained for this, Matthew. You're not. They're expecting me, he insisted. They'll know immediately it's a deception. Not if they can't see clearly. She gestured to their similar builds, similar coloring. At night from a distance, with the right clothes and hat, I can pass for you long enough to initiate engagement. And the children will be kept separate from the exchange point. Standard protocol for leveraged negotiations. Natalie was already moving, gathering supplies from hidden compartments around the apartment. Once I confirm their location, my team moves in. Your team, the ones who don't officially exist, already mobilizing, she confirmed, checking her phone, waiting for coordinates. Matthew processed this, searching for flaws in the plan. They'll kill you when they realize the deception. They'll try. The cold certainty in her voice should have been disturbing. Instead, Matthew found it reassuring. I still don't trust you, he said bluntly, but I trust your motivation. You'll do anything to save Emma, just as you would for Mia. Natalie handed him a sleek black phone. This has one purpose: to call me when you find the failsafe. The line is secure. I'll dispatch a team to your location immediately. Matthew took the device, doubt gnawing at him. What if there's nothing there? What if we're wrong about the coordinates? Then we've lost nothing by checking. The exchange is still our primary play. She hesitated, then added, but your father was thorough. If he created a failsafe, he made sure it would survive him. She was right again. Whatever his father's true nature, hero or villain, his methodical precision was legendary. If Daniel Burns had hidden something, it would be exactly where he intended it to be. They moved quickly after that, preparing for their separate missions. Natalie transformed herself with subtle efficiency, donning Matthew's jacket, adjusting her posture to mirror his, tucking her hair beneath his cap. The resemblance was uncanny, especially in low light. 30 minutes to the exchange window, she noted, checking her weapons. You should leave now to reach the river before dark. Matthew nodded, zipping his borrowed coat. A thought struck him. The box. They'll expect it at the exchange. Natalie produced an identical wooden box from her bag. Replica, created months ago when we identified your storage unit. The revelation should have angered him, further evidence of her manipulation. Instead, Matthew felt grudging respect for her thoroughness. And the real box goes with you. The stones are the authentication key for the failsafe. Natalie handed him a small transponder. This will alert you to surveillance. Green means clear, red means observed. Matthew pocketed the device, mind shifting into tactical mode. Transport, underground garage, second level, black sedan diplomatic plates, invisible to standard traffic monitoring. She paused, meeting his eyes directly. One more thing. If I'm not at the rendezvous point in 3 hours, take the fail-safe and go. There's a go bag in the trunk with new identities, cash, everything you'll need to disappear with Mia. The implication hung between them. If Natalie didn't make the rendezvous, she was either captured or dead. And Emma, he asked quietly. Pain flashed across Natalie's face, genuine, unguarded. Will be extracted by my team, if possible. The qualifier told Matthew everything. Natalie was preparing for every contingency, including her own death, including the possibility that her daughter might not survive. I'll find her, he promised. If things go wrong, I'll make sure Emma is safe. Gratitude flickered in Natalie's eyes, quickly masked. Just find the fail-safe. Everything else is secondary. Matthew knew she was lying. Nothing was more important to her than Emma, but operational necessity demanded the pretense. They descended to the underground garage in silence, each lost in private thoughts. The black sedan waited exactly where Natalie had indicated. Keys are inside, she said. Drive carefully. No attention. Matthew nodded, opening the driver's door. Before entering, he turned back. Natalie, whatever happens, whatever you've done, thank you for trying to protect Mia. Something shifted in her expression, a crack in the operative's armor, revealing the person beneath. Get your daughter back, Matthew. Then decide if you want to thank me. With that, she turned and walked away, shoulders squared, stride lengthening to match his. Even her gait had transformed to mimic his movement patterns. By the time she reached the garage exit, the resemblance was uncanny. Matthew watched until she disappeared, then slid behind the wheel. The engine purred to life with expensive quietness. He pulled out of the garage, mind focused on a single objective lookout point: the cave, the fail-safe that might save their children. As he navigated through Denver's outskirts, a strange calm settled over him. The father's panic and the civilian's uncertainty receded, replaced by something colder, more focused. He recognized it distantly, the same state he'd observed in Natalie, in Ray, the mind's adaptation to combat conditions. The drive to Lookout Point passed in a blur of strategic planning. Matthew cataloged resources, assessed threats, calculated contingencies. The wooden box set beside him on the passenger seat, 7 river stones arranged in their proper sequence. Pieces of time, his father had called them. Matthew wondered what other secrets those innocent stones might unlock. The transponder remained green throughout the journey, no surveillance detected. Either Cypress had committed all resources to the exchange, or Natalie's evasion techniques were working. Either way, Matthew reached the river road unobserved. Dusk was falling as he parked in the abandoned ranger station lot. No other vehicles present. The transponder still showed green. He tucked the box under his arm and set out on the hiking trail, moving swiftly through gathering shadows. The waterfall's roar grew louder as he approached Lookout Point. Memories surfaced with each step, his father pointing out birds, teaching him to cast a fishing line, sharing rare smiles when a trout was caught. Simple moments that now seemed impossibly complex. Had his father been thinking of Project Blackout even then? Had those peaceful days been haunted by the weapon he'd created? The trail curved around a granite outcropping, revealing the waterfall in twilight splendor. 50 feet of thundering water catching the day's last light in rainbow prisms. Below, the pool churned with white foam, feeding the river beyond. Matthew scanned the area for threats, a habit already forming after days with Natalie. Nothing moved except the eternal fall of water. The cave entrance was just as he remembered, a narrow gap behind the waterfall's eastern edge, invisible unless you knew exactly where to look. Accessing it required traversing a slippery rock ledge, with the waterfall's spray making each step treacherous. Matthew secured the box inside his jacket and began the careful journey across. One slip meant a 40-foot plunge onto rocks. He moved methodically, testing each foothold before committing his weight. Halfway across, his phone vibrated. Natalie's secure line. He pressed against the rock face, creating enough stability to answer. "I'm almost at the cave," he reported without preamble. Change of plans. Natalie's voice was tight, controlled. They were waiting at the exchange. Ambush. Cold fear gripped Matthew's chest. The children. Not here, secondary location. Her breathing was labored. I've got 2 bullet wounds, nothing critical, evaded pursuit for now. Emma Mia Ray, still alive according to their negotiator. But they're moving them. The sound of running footsteps came through the line. They know it's a split play. They've figured out we're after the failsafe too. Matthew's mind raced. How could they know about Lookout Point? A moment of silence then. There's a mole in my organization, has to be. They were too prepared. What's our move? Find the failsafe, Natalie ordered. It's our only leverage now. I'm going the dark need to shake pursuit. We'll contact when secure. The line went dead. Matthew stared at the phone calculations shifting. The situation had deteriorated drastically. Natalie injured, the children being moved. A mole in her organization. And he was alone on a rock ledge, hunting for a failsafe that might not exist. For a moment, despair threatened to overwhelm him. Then Mia's face flashed in his mind, her trust, her innocence. The rabbit she carried everywhere now torn and bloodied as a message. Matthew pushed forward with renewed determination. 3 more steps brought him to the cave entrance, a black void behind the waterfall's curtain. He slipped inside the roar of water, immediately muffled. Darkness enveloped him. He activated the phone's flashlight, revealing a narrow passage extending into the mountain. The air was damp and cold, heavy with mineral scents. Matthew advanced cautiously, scanning for signs of human presence. 20 feet in the passage widened into a small chamber. His light played across natural rock formations, centuries of water's patient artistry. Nothing man-made, no sign of a failsafe. Disappointment surged. Had he misinterpreted the coordinates? Was this entire mission a misdirection? He swept the light more systematically, examining every crevice. Near the back wall, something reflected the beam, a metallic glint amid stone. Matthew approached, heart quickening. There, embedded in the cave wall, was a small metal plate. No larger than a playing card, it bore no markings except a shallow depression in its center. A depression the exact size and shape of a river stone. Matthew retrieved the box, examining the 7 stones. Which one would activate the mechanism? The sequence had led him here, but which stone was the key? He remembered his father's note: arrangement matters, not just the sequence of coordinates, the arrangement of the stones themselves. Matthew laid the stones in the mound, reproducing their chronological order. A pattern emerged. The stones formed a simple arrow pointing to the stone from their last fishing trip together. The final memory they'd shared before his father's death. With careful movements, Matthew pressed that stone into the metal plate's depression. It fit perfectly. For a breathless moment, nothing happened. Then a soft click echoed through the cave. A section of wall slid aside, revealing a small alcove. Inside sat a waterproof case, military grade, with a biometric lock. Matthew placed his thumb on the scanner, pulse racing. Would his father have programmed it to recognize him? Had he planned this contingency so thoroughly? The lock flashed green. The case opened. Inside lay a single USB drive and a handwritten letter. Matthew unfolded the paper with trembling fingers, his father's familiar handwriting swimming before his eyes. If you are reading this, I've failed to correct my greatest mistake. Project Blackout began as my attempt to protect our nation's infrastructure. Somewhere along the way, protection became control, then weapon. I didn't see it happening until too late. This drive contains everything: the original code, the weaponized modifications, the shell companies, the officials who authorized it. Enough evidence to stop them if used correctly. I'm sorry for the secrets, for the distance I kept. It was never lack of love, but fear of what my work might bring to your door. Trust no one completely. Verify everything. And remember that even in the darkest moments, there is always a choice. Your father. Matthew stared at the letter, emotions warring within him. Grief for the father he'd never truly known. Anger at the secrets that had endangered Mia. Relief that Daniel Burns had, in the end, chosen conscience over complicity. He pocketed the drive and letter, securing them inside his jacket. The fail-safe was real. They had leverage. Now he just needed to reach Natalie before Cypress found either of them. As Matthew turned to leave, his transponder flashed from green to red. He was no longer alone. Matthew extinguished his light, immediately plunging the cave into darkness. He pressed against the wall, controlling his breathing as footsteps echoed from the passage. Multiple sets, armed men moving with professional precision. The fail-safe felt impossibly heavy in his pocket, so close to success only to be cornered. A voice called out, female and familiar. "Matthew, it's me. I've secured the perimeter." Relief flooded him. Natalie had made it after all. He stepped forward, reaching for his light, then stopped. Something was wrong. The voice was Natalie's, but the cadence was off. Too calm for someone with 2 bullet wounds. And she'd said she was going dark, evading pursuit. Matthew remained silent, easing toward a side passage he'd noticed earlier. The footsteps grew closer. "Matthew, I know you're in here. The children are safe. We recovered them during the exchange." Another red flag. Natalie would have led with Emma's name, not the children. "We don't have much time," the voice continued. "Cyprus has deployed a secondary team. We need to move." Matthew slipped into the side passage just as flashlight beams swept the main chamber. 3 figures entered, Natalie in the lead, flanked by 2 men in tactical gear. Her movements showed no sign of injury. No blood stained her clothing. "Burns," she called. "Stop hiding. We're on the same side." Matthew held his position, mind racing. If this was Natalie, why the deception about her injuries? If not Natalie, then who? "A twin, a doppelganger, the cave branches ahead," one man reported. "He could be in either passage." "Take left, I'll take right," Natalie ordered. "He has the fail-safe. Non-lethal takedown only." The men separated, moving deeper into the cave. Natalie approached Matthew's hiding spot, flashlight beam sweeping methodically. "Matthew," she said softly, "I know you're confused. Let me explain." He remained motionless, scarcely breathing. Her light passed over his position, then moved on. "Your father wasn't who you thought," she continued, voice echoing slightly. "But neither am I." She stepped fully into the side passage, back turned to Matthew as she searched ahead. He could see her clearly now. Same build, same hair, same tactical gear. But a small detail caught his attention. A scar on her neck, just visible above her collar. A scar Natalie didn't have. Understanding dawned with sickening clarity. Not a doppelganger, a twin. The mole in Natalie's organization wasn't just any operative. It was her own flesh and blood. Matthew's phone vibrated silently in his pocket. The secure line. He couldn't answer without revealing his position, but the message was clear. The real Natalie was trying to warn him. "I don't want to hurt you," the woman said, still scanning the passage ahead. "But I will if necessary. The fail-safe belongs to us. Always has. Us. Not the NID, not Cyprus, someone else entirely." The realization left Matthew reeling. They'd been playing a 3-sided game all along with the children as pawns, and he'd just found the queen. The woman turned suddenly, flashlight beam landing directly on Matthew's position. A smile spread across features identical to Natalie's, yet fundamentally different. "There you are," she said softly. "Hello, Matthew. I'm Diana. Natalie never mentioned me, did she? Wow. Hello, Matthew. I'm Diana. Natalie never mentioned me, did she?" Matthew's mind raced, calculating options, each worse than the last. He was cornered in a narrow passage with Diana blocking the exit. Her men would return soon, cutting off any hope of escape. "Where are the children?" he demanded, voice steady despite the fear churning in his gut. Diana tilted her head, studying him with clinical detachment. "Safe, for now. Emma's quite attached to your daughter. Sweet, really. If you've hurt them—" "I don't hurt children, Matthew." Her expression hardened. "Unlike my sister, who dragged a 9-year-old into an active operation." The accusation carried genuine emotion, the first authentic thing Matthew had heard from her. A fracture line in her professional facade. "The fail-safe," Diana continued, gesturing with her free hand. "Give it to me, and you'll see your daughter again. And if I don't believe you," a smile ghosted across her lips. "Smart man, trust issues, I approve." She lowered her flashlight slightly. "But you're out of options. My men have the exit covered. Natalie is bleeding out somewhere in the forest. And you're just a security guard with a USB drive. You don't understand." Matthew's phone vibrated again. Diana's eyes flickered toward his pocket. "That would be my sister, I presume, desperately trying to warn you." She extended her hand. "The phone, please?" Instead of complying, Matthew lunged not toward Diana, but sideways deeper into the passage. Her shot went wide, bullets sparking against stone as he scrambled through a narrow gap in the rock wall. "Containment breach," Diana shouted. "Target moving deeper. Converge on my position." Matthew pressed through the tight opening stone, scraping his shoulders. The passage widened again on the other side, branching into multiple tunnels. He chose one at random, relying on instinct and darkness to cover his escape. The cave system was more extensive than he'd realize. His father had chosen well a natural labyrinth with countless hiding places. But Diana and her men had equipment training in superior numbers. Time was against him. The vibration came again. Matthew ducked into a side alcove and answered. Natalie. Listen carefully. Her voice was weak but focused. Diana will have called for backup. You have 15 minutes before they seal every exit. You knew about her. Accusation edged his words. You knew and didn't warn me. Operational security. The excuse sounded hollow even to her. Diana went rogue 3 years ago, sold classified tech to the highest bidder. I've been hunting her ever since. Your own sister. Especially my sister. Bitterness tinged her reply. She's why Emma was taken the first time. Leverage against me. Footsteps echoed nearby. Matthew pressed deeper into the alcove. I need extraction, he whispered. They're closing in. Working on it. There's a water passage at the lowest level of the cave system. It connects to the river downstream. How do I find it? Follow the moisture. The walls will be slick with condensation. Matthew touched the nearest wall. Dry stone. And if they catch me first. Natalie's hesitation told him everything. Don't let that happen. The line went dead. Matthew pocketed the phone, heart pounding against his ribs. A head flashlight beam swept the main tunnel. Behind voices grew closer. He assessed his options with newfound clarity. Running meant certain capture. Hiding would only delay the inevitable. That left one choice the most dangerous, but the only one with a chance of success. Matthew crouched low, retrieving a stone from the cave floor. With careful aim, he hurled it down the leftmost passage. It clattered loudly against distant rock. Movement Sector 3. A beam swung toward the sound. Using the distraction, Matthew slipped into the right passage, moving silently as Natalie had taught him. 20 feet in the ground began to slope downward. The air grew damper, heavier with mineral scents. Following the water, following hope, the descent steepened. Matthew braced himself against slick walls, feeling his way through near total darkness. Above, shouts and footsteps grew more distant. Below, the sound of rushing water emerged, faint at first, then growing steadily louder. His foot slipped on wet stone. Matthew fell hard, sliding several feet before catching himself. Pain lanced through his ribs, but the USB drive remained secure in his inner pocket. The failsafe. Their only leverage. The passage opened suddenly into a larger chamber. Matthew's eyes had adjusted enough to discern a faint blue glow emanating from below, bioluminescent algae in an underground pool. The water bubbled and churned, disappearing into a narrow tunnel at the chamber's edge. Natalie's escape route, a submerged passage leading to the river. Matthew approached the pool's edge, assessing the gap. 10 feet of water, maybe 15. No way to tell how long the underwater tunnel stretched beyond. If it narrowed too much, he'd be trapped, drowned in darkness. Voices echoed from the passage behind him. No time for hesitation. Matthew secured the USB drive in a waterproof inner pocket, said a silent prayer for Mia, and dove. The cold hit like a physical blow, driving air from his lungs. The current caught him, immediately pulling him toward the underwater tunnel with frightening strength. Matthew fought the panic rising in his chest, focusing on controlled movements, conserving oxygen. The tunnel mouth loomed ahead, a dark oval in the blue-green glow. He kicked hard, propelling himself into the passage. Instantly, the current accelerated, tumbling him through darkness. His shoulder scraped stone, then his hip. The roar of water filled his ears. Lungs burning, Matthew reached forward, seeking any hint of the tunnel's end. His fingers found only rushing water and slick stone. Blackness crowded the edges of his vision. Just when surrender seemed inevitable, the passage widened. The current thrust him upward into breathable air. Matthew gasped, filling his lungs with sweet oxygen as the river carried him into moonlight. He'd made it. Somehow. The river swept him downstream, away from the waterfall and searching lights. When his strength returned, Matthew swam to the bank, dragging himself onto mossy earth. For several minutes he lay there, simply breathing, savoring survival. The phone miraculously still worked, sealed in its tactical case. Matthew dialed Natalie's secure line. I made it, he reported, voice hoarse from river water, through the underwater passage. Good, Relief colored her tone. Rendezvous point is 3 miles downstream. Abandoned ranger cabin. Can you make it? Matthew assessed his condition. Bruised ribs, scraped shoulder, exhaustion settling into his bones, but the alternative was capture and Mia remained in danger. I'll make it, he promised. What about you? Flesh wound, Natalie replied, though strain undercut her casual dismissal. Nothing critical. And Diana, silence stretched between them. My sister is a complication, Natalie finally said. One I'll handle when the time comes. She has the children, Natalie. I'm aware. Her voice hardened. That's why we need the failsafe. It's our only leverage. Matthew touched the pocket containing the USB drive. I have it. Daniel's insurance policy. Good. Now move. Diana will have teams sweeping the river soon. The line disconnected. Matthew dragged himself to his feet, orienting by the moon and rushing water. 3 miles downstream, 1 foot in front of the other, for Mia. The forest passed in a blur of shadow and moonlight. Matthew moved automatically, mind replaying Dinah's words, searching for clues for weaknesses he could exploit. The emotion when she'd mentioned Emma, the accusation against her sister. Bad blood ran deep between the twins, perhaps deep enough to create opportunities. 2 hours later, the abandoned ranger cabin appeared a dark silhouette against star-studded sky. Matthew approached cautiously, scanning for threats. A soft whistle from the trees signaled Natalie's presence. She emerged from shadows, moving with the careful precision of the injured. Blood darkened her left side, but her eyes remained alert, focused. You look like hell, she observed, guiding him inside. You're not winning any beauty pageants yourself. Matthew collapsed onto a dusty chair, every muscle protesting the day's abuse. Natalie secured the door, then retrieved a medical kit from her pack. She worked methodically, assessing his injuries with professional detachment. 2 cracked ribs, possibly 3, she diagnosed, fingers probing his side. Nothing life-threatening. Matthew winced at her touch. The fail-safe, secure. He nodded, patting his inner pocket. Waterlogged but intact. Relief softened Natalie's features. She sat heavily on a nearby crate, fatigue briefly overtaking her composed exterior. Blood seeped through her to makeshift bandage. Your turn, Matthew insisted, reaching for the medical kit. Let me see. To his surprise, she complied without argument, unlacing her tactical vest to reveal a bullet wound high on her left side. The bleeding had slowed, but the surrounding skin looked angry and inflamed. Through and through, she noted clinically. Missed anything vital? Still needs cleaning. Matthew opened an antiseptic packet. This will hurt. Not my first rodeo. As he worked on her wounds, silence settled between them, not comfortable but not hostile either. The shared experience of survival, of mutual dependence, had shifted something fundamental in their dynamic. Diana, Matthew said finally. She's really your twin. Natalie's jaw tightened. Identical. Down to the DNA. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed that my identical twin sister went rogue, sold classified technology to America's enemies, and is now working with the very corporation we're fighting? Her laugh held no humor. I barely believe it myself some days. Matthew secured a fresh bandage over her wound. Families are complicated. Understatement of the century. Natalie reached for her tactical pack, retrieving a laptop. We need to examine the failsafe, see exactly what we're working with. Matthew produced the USB drive, now dried but functional. Natalie booted the computer, her expression intent as she inserted the drive. Files populated the screen, hundreds of documents, schematics, code repositories. Daniel Burns' legacy preserved in digital form. My God, Natalie breathed, scrolling through the contents. This is everything. The original design specs, the weaponization protocols, the shell companies. She opened another folder. And this the kill switch. Kill switch. Your father built a backdoor into Project Blackout, a way to permanently disable it if it ever fell into the wrong hands. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. With this, we could render the entire system inert, useless to Cyprus, useless to Diana, useless to anyone. Hope kindled in Matthew's chest. We can end this. Not quite that simple. Natalie's expression sobered. The kill switch requires physical access to Cypress Arms' main server farm. We'd need to upload it directly to their network. Where is this server farm? Arlington facility, where you work security. The coincidence struck Matthew anew. his father's design, his former workplace, his daughter now in danger because of both. So we need to break into one of the most secure facilities in the country while being hunted by your homicidal twin sister and a private military corporation. Yes, Natalie closed the laptop. But first we need to get the children back. Diana will want to trade, the fail-safe for the kids. Exactly what she expects. Natalie's expression hardened, which is why we won't do it. We'll use the prospect of a trade to locate the children, then extract them ourselves. Matthew stared at her. That's insanely risky. Less risky than trusting Diana to honor any agreement. Natalie's voice carried the weight of bitter experience. She betrayed her country, her agency, her own sister. She won't hesitate to eliminate loose ends once she has what she wants. The tactical assessment was sound, but the human cost potentially devastating. If they failed, both children would suffer. And if we can't find them before the trade, Matthew pressed. If Diana keeps them hidden, Natalie met his gaze directly. Then we make the trade and deal with the consequences. She hesitated, then added softly, I won't sacrifice Emma or Mia, not even for this. The admission vulnerability from a woman who revealed so little felt monumental. Matthew nodded, accepting her word. So how do we find them? We start with what we know. Natalie retrieved a map from her pack, spreading it across the cabin's dusty table. Diana is meticulous, methodical. She'll keep the children somewhere secure but accessible, somewhere with multiple escape routes. Like Ray's garage, Matthew suggested. We know they were there. Temporarily, perhaps, but she would have moved them immediately after securing the location. Natalie marked several points on the map. These are potential holding sites based on Diana's previous operations. Safe houses, abandoned facilities, properties owned through shell companies. Matthew studied the markings all within 50 miles of Denver. That's a lot of ground to cover. We won't have to check them all. Natalie's expression shifted, a new calculation emerging. Diana will contact us soon for the trade. When she does, I'll trace the call. She'll expect that. Of course, but my sister has a pattern. She always calls from at least 5 miles from her actual location to give herself buffer zone. Natalie tapped the map. Once we have the call location, we can narrow our search. The strategy was sound if dependent on Diana's predictability. Matthew found himself analyzing the plan with newfound tactical awareness, assessing weaknesses, identifying contingencies. Days with Natalie had changed him, awakened instincts he didn't know he possessed. What about Ray? He asked suddenly. If he's still alive, he is. Natalie's certainty was reassuring. Diana doesn't eliminate assets unnecessarily. Ray has skills she might find useful. Then he might help the children. Create opportunities. Possible, but we can't count on it. Natalie stood, wincing slightly at the movement. We should rest while we can. Diana won't call until morning. She'll want us sleep-deprived, anxious, emotional. Matthew nodded, military logic overriding personal instinct. Rest, recover, prepare, the mantra of survival. They took turns sleeping 3 hours each, weapons within reach. When dawn broke, Matthew found Natalie already awake, monitoring communications equipment with single-minded focus. Anything, he asked, accepting the energy bar she offered. Not yet. She didn't look up from the displays, but soon. As if summoned by her prediction, a device on the table chirped. Natalie activated it, immediately nodding to Matthew. Showtime. Walker, she answered, voice neutral. Hello, sister. Diana's voice filled the cabin, smooth as silk. Sleep well? Where are the children? No preamble, no emotional hooks. Safe, comfortable. Emma's been asking for you. Diana's tone shifted, became contemplative. She looks more like Dad every day, don't you think? Same stubborn chin. Matthew watched Natalie's jaw tighten, the family reference hitting its mark despite her control. The trade, Natalie replied, refusing the bait. When and where, direct as always. Amusement colored Diana's voice. Tonight, midnight, the old Millbrook Bridge. Natalie's eyes flickered to her tracking equipment. The signal was lock location identified. She nodded to Matthew, confirming their plan was in motion. Terms, she asked, maintaining Diana's attention. Simple. You bring the fail-safe, the complete package, not some clever duplicate. I bring the children. We verify, we exchange, we part ways. And Burns brings his daughter home, lives happily ever after. Diana's voice hardened, assuming full compliance. Matthew leaned forward. Let me speak to Mia. A pause, then rustling sounds. Daddy! Mia's small voice emerged trembling but intact. Relief flooded Matthew's system. Hey, Pumpkin, are you okay? Are they treating you well? I want to come home. The words caught on a sob. Emma says it's going to be okay, but I'm scared. I know, baby. I'm coming for you. Tonight. Matthew fought to keep his voice steady. You stay close to Emma, okay? She'll take care of you until I get there. Oh, okay, Mia sniffled. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, Pumpkin. More than anything. Diana returned to the line, touching. Now, Natalie, shall we arrange for verification of the failsafe? Standard authentication protocols, Natalie replied. I'll transmit a sample file to prove authenticity. Good. Use the secure drop. 1 hour. Diana's tone turned contemplative again. Did you ever tell him the truth, Nat, about Daniel Burns? About what really happened that night on the mountain road? Matthew's stiffened eyes locking with Natalie's. Her expression revealed nothing. This isn't the time for games, Di. No games, just curiosity. Diana's smile was audible. Midnight, Millbrook Bridge. Come alone, both of you. Any sign of your NID friends and the children disappear forever. The line went dead. Natalie immediately checked her tracking equipment, confirming the signal origin. South Denver, she reported. Industrial District. That narrows it down to what, a dozen potential sites? 5, actually. Natalie marked the map, based on signal location and Diana's operational patterns. Matthew studied the markings, mind still caught on Diana's parting words. What did she mean about my father? About what happened that night? Natalie's hesitation spoke volumes. Diana specializes in psychological warfare, sowing doubt, creating friction between allies. That's not an answer. No, she met his gaze directly. It's not, but right now it's all you get. The children are the priority. The deflection was masterful, appealing to his paternal instincts to override his curiosity. And it worked. Matthew nodded, accepting the temporary evasion. So we checked these 5 locations, he said, returning to the tactical problem. Looking for what exactly? Increased security, recent deliveries, unusual power consumption. Natalie gathered her equipment with practiced efficiency. Diana's thorough, but she's working with limited resources and time. There will be indicators. And if we find them, then we move immediately. Extract the children, secure the failsafe, disappear before Diana realizes we've broken the rules. Matthew processed this, identifying the unspoken element. And if we don't find them before midnight, Natalie's expression hardened. Then we make the trade. As agreed, but we activate the kill switch, first set it to trigger after we've confirmed the children's safety. A backup plan, insurance against betrayal. Exactly what Daniel Burns would have done. They departed the cabin 30 minutes later, navigating back roads toward Denver in a vehicle Natalie had stashed nearby. Matthew's mind cataloged preparations, contingencies, potential failure points. The security guard had become a soldier transformed by necessity and exposure. Their first target was an abandoned warehouse in South Denver's industrial corridor. Natalie parked 2 blocks away, conducting surveillance with high-powered optics. Negative, she concluded after 20 minutes. No security presence, no recent activity. The second location, a foreclosed office building, yielded similar results. Empty, undisturbed, no sign of Diana's operation. At the third site, they found their first indicator, fresh tire tracks leading to a loading dock. Matthew identified them immediately. Tactical vehicles, heavy tread pattern, military grade. Natalie nodded, impressed by his observation. Good eye. And they approached cautiously, using adjacent buildings as cover. The facility, a former data center, showed subtle signs of occupation. Blinds carefully positioned. Security cameras reinstalled. Generator humming quietly behind a service entrance. This is it, Natalie whispered. Diana's holding them here. Matthew studied the building's layout, assessing entry points, security measures. Multiple access routes, minimal external guards. She's relying on obscurity rather than force. Typical Diana, hiding in plain sight. Natalie checked her watch. We have 8 hours until the exchange. Need at least 2 for surveillance, 1 for planning, 1 for position. She glanced at Matthew. That leaves 4 hours to extract the children and disappear. The timeline was tight but feasible. Matthew nodded, settling in for surveillance. Together, they documented guard rotations, identified blind spots, mapped the most likely location for holding prisoners. By hour 3, they had a working plan. By hour 5, they were in position, Matthew covering the north entrance, Natalie the east. Timing was everything. Synchronized watches, coordinated movement. On my mark, Natalie's voice whispered through the comm unit. 3, 2, 1, execute. Matthew moved with newfound confidence, neutralizing the exterior guard with a precise chokehold just as Natalie had taught him. Non-lethal, efficient. The man slumped, unconscious, keys extracted from his belt. Access granted, Matthew slipped inside, advancing through darkened corridors with measured steps. Ahead, voices emerged, 2 men discussing shift changes. He pressed against the wall, waiting for them to pass. Check on the kids, one guard instructed the other. The little one was crying again. Roger that. 3rd floor east wing. Location confirmed. Matthew relayed the intelligence to Natalie through their comm system. She acknowledged with a single click. The extraction plan accelerated. Matthew ascended via service stairs, avoiding cameras with practice movements. 3rd floor, east wing. The children were close. A guard stood outside, a reinforced door rifle slung across his chest. Alert but complacent, the most dangerous combination for an infiltrator. Matthew waited for Natalie's diversion. Right on schedule, alarms blared from the west wing, a small electrical fire carefully contained but disruptive. The guard hesitated, then spoke into his radio. After receiving instructions, he reluctantly left his post to assist with the emergency. Window of opportunity, approximately 3 minutes. Matthew moved quickly, using the stolen keys to unlock the door. It swung open to reveal a converted office space, 2 cots, a small bathroom, children's drawings taped to the wall. Emma sat on the floor beside Mia, reading from a tattered storybook. Both girls looked up at the sound of the door. Mia's eyes widened. "Daddy," she whispered, voice catching. "Shh." Matthew pressed a finger to his lips, crossing the room in 3 strides. "We need to be very quiet, like a game." Emma was already on her feet, gathering essentials with the efficiency of a child who'd done this before. "Is my mom here?" "East entrance," Matthew confirmed. "Waiting for us." Relief washed over Emma's face. The strange adult understanding in her eyes broke Matthew's heart anew. "Ready, pumpkin?" he asked, lifting Mia into his arms. She nodded, clinging to his neck. "Ready, Daddy." With Emma leading and Mia secured, Matthew retraced his path to the service stairs. The diversion continued, shouted orders, running footsteps, all focused away from their escape route. They descended quickly, Emma moving with silent precision, Mia trembling against Matthew's chest. The exit appeared ahead, a service door leading to the loading dock. Freedom just steps away. Leaving so soon. The voice froze Matthew mid-stride. Diana stepped from the shadows, pistol aimed casually at his chest. "I'm disappointed," she continued conversationally, though not surprised. Natalie always breaks the rules when it suits her purpose. Matthew instinctively positioned himself between Diana and the children. "Your quarrel is with us, not them." Noble but unnecessary. Diana kept the weapon trained on him. "As I told you before, I don't hurt children. Just use them as leverage." When required, her gaze shifted to Emma. "Hello, niece. You've grown since I last saw you." Emma pressed closer to Matthew, eyes wide with recognition and fear. "The fail-safe," Diana continued, attention returning to Matthew. "Where is it?" "Safe." His mind raced, calculating odds. Diana stood between them and escape. Natalie was presumably still handling the diversion. The children were vulnerable. "Let the girls go, and I'll tell you." Diana's laugh held genuine amusement. "Bargaining, really?" She gestured with the pistol. "Back upstairs, all of you. We'll wait for my sister together." Matthew's comm unit crackled, Natalie listening, aware of their predicament. A single click. Message received. Help coming. If he could stall for time. "Your sister mentioned something earlier," Matthew said, making no move toward the stairs. "About my father, about what really happened that night." Interest flickered in Diana's eyes. "Did she now?" And did she answer, "No"? "Of course not." Diana's smile was cold. "Natalie prefers her secrets safely buried. Like your father." The implication hung in the air between them. Matthew's chest tightened. "What do you mean?" Ask yourself a simple question, Mr. Burns. Who benefited most from Daniel's death? Who gained control of his research? His fail-safes. Diana tilted her head. Not Cyprus. They spent years searching. No, someone else found his backup files first. Someone close to the investigation. The accusation crystallized in Matthew's mind. You're saying Natalie was first on scene after your father's accident. Diana's emphasis left no doubt about her meaning. Convenient, wouldn't you say? The revelation hit Matthew like a physical blow. Could Natalie have been involved in his father's death? Had everything they're meeting at the diner, her protection, her guidance, been elaborately constructed? Manipulation. She's lying, Daddy, Mia whispered, sensing his distress. The simple statement, delivered with a child's certainty, centered him. Diana was a master manipulator. Creating division was her specialty. Truth or lies, her goal remained the same: separate him from Natalie. Break their alliance. Upstairs, Diana repeated, gesturing with the gun. Now, TM. Matthew held his ground. No. Surprise flickered across Diana's face. Excuse me? I said no. Matthew straightened, decision made. You won't shoot me. You need me to access the fail-safe. You won't shoot the children because even you have lines you won't cross. That leaves us at an impasse. Diana's expression hardened. You're making a grave miscalculation. Am I? Matthew stepped forward, deliberate provocation. Prove it. Diana's finger tightened on the trigger, a warning, not yet a decision. The standoff stretched between them, seconds expanding into eternities. Then from the darkness behind Diana, a new voice emerged. Hello, sister. Diana whirled, weapon tracking toward the sound. Too late. Natalie emerged from shadow, her own pistol already aimed. Drop it, Natalie ordered. For a breathless moment, identical faces stared at each other across leveled weapons, mirror images locked in lethal opposition. You won't shoot me, Diana said, confidence unwavering. Not in front of Emma. Try me. Natalie's voice was ice. Children, close your eyes. Emma immediately covered Mia's eyes with her hands, then squeezed her own shut. The simple action, protective, instinctive, spoke volumes about her upbringing. Diana hesitated, calculation evident in her expression. This doesn't end here, Nat. You know that. It ends now. Natalie stepped closer. Drop the weapon. Something shifted in Diana's posture. A decision reached, a new course plotted. She lowered her pistol slowly. Always the hero, she said softly. Always the perfect daughter, the perfect agent, the perfect mother. Bitterness edged each word. Does he know what it cost you, what you sacrificed for the greater good? Enough. Natalie's aim never wavered. On your knees, hands behind your head. Diana complied with fluid grace, a smile playing at her lips. Ask her, Matthew. Ask her about Sentinel Protocol. Ask her about Daniel Burns and the original failsafe. Matthew looked between the sisters, uncertainty blooming anew. What is she talking about? Psychological warfare, Natalie replied, securing Diana's hands with zip ties. Creating doubt between allies, standard procedure. Is it working? Diana asked, smile widening. I think it's working. Natalie hauled her sister to her feet. Matthew, take the children. East exit. Vehicle is waiting. I'll handle this. The dismissal was clear. Natalie wanted him away from Diana's poison, away from questions she wasn't prepared to answer. Wait. Matthew stood his ground. What's Sentinel Protocol? Frustration flashed across Natalie's face. Not now. Yes, now then. Matthew's voice hardened. No more deflections. No more operational security. If we're partners in this, I deserve the truth. The sisters exchanged a look, something unspoken passing between them. Diana's smile grew triumphant. Natalie's expression closed like a fortress under siege. Sentinel Protocol was the original mission, Natalie finally said. Locate and secure all of Daniel Burns's fail-safes before they could be weaponized. By anyone, Diana added pointedly, including the government. Matthew processed this, implications expanding outward. And my father? Natalie's hesitation was answer enough. Diana laughed softly. Tell him, Nat. Tell him who was driving the car that forced Daniel off that mountain road. The accusation hung between them, monstrous and unthinkable. Matthew stared at Natalie, searching for denial, for outrage, for any sign of innocence. He found only regret. It wasn't supposed to happen that way, Natalie said quietly. He was meant to be extracted, brought in, protected. The world tilted beneath Matthew's feet. You killed him. It was an accident. The roads were slick. He swerved too hard. An accident you covered up. Matthew's voice sounded distant to his own ears. An accident you've been hiding from me while using me to find his failsafe. Before Natalie could respond, an explosion rocked the building. Alarms blared. The diversion had become something much more dangerous. Diana smiled. Right on schedule. The blast concussion sent them all staggering. Dust and debris rained from the ceiling as emergency lights flickered then stabilized to a pulsing red glow. Somewhere in the distance, automatic weapons fire erupted. What have you done? Natalie demanded, steadying herself against the wall. Diana's smile widened. Insurance policy. Did you really think I came alone? Despite the zip ties binding her wrists, Diana radiated confidence. Whatever was happening had been planned, orchestrated to perfection. Matthew, Natalie snapped, take the children and go. Now. The urgency in her voice penetrated his shock. Whatever betrayals lay between them, the children remained innocent, vulnerable. Matthew scooped Mia into his arms and grabbed Emma's hand. This way, he instructed, heading toward the service exit. Wait. Emma pulled back, eyes fixed on her mother. Mom, come with us. Conflict flashed across Natalie's face, duty warring with a maternal instinct. She glanced between her daughter and her captive sister. Go with Matthew, she ordered. I'll be right behind you. Promise, Emma's voice cracked, revealing the frightened child beneath the composed exterior. Promise, oh. Natalie's expression softened fractionally. Now go. Matthew hesitated, torn between his anger at Natalie's deception and the tactical reality she was their best chance of escape. Diana's people were coming. Decisions had to be made. 3 minutes, he said, locking eyes with Natalie. Then we're gone. She nodded once, understanding the ultimatum. Matthew led the children toward the exit mine, racing through contingencies. The USB drive remained secure in his pocket, their only leverage more valuable than ever now. They reached the service door as another explosion rocked the building closer this time. Matthew pushed through into the night air, immediately scanning for threats. The parking area remained clear, but smoke billowed from the facility's west wing. Tactical vehicles approached from the main road lights, extinguished Diana's reinforcements. This way, Matthew urged, guiding the children toward the tree line where Natalie had stashed their vehicle. What about Mom? Emma resisted, looking back toward the building. She's coming, Matthew assured her, though doubt gnawed at his certainty. But we need to reach safety first. They moved quickly through shadows, avoiding open ground. Mia clung to Matthew's neck, trembling, but silent. Emma kept pace beside them, her movements showing the same tactical awareness as her mother's, a child trained for survival from birth. The SUV waited exactly where Natalie had indicated, keys hidden behind the rear wheel well. Matthew secured the children in the back seat, then slid behind the wheel, eyes constantly scanning for pursuit. 2 minutes had passed. No sign of Natalie. We should wait, Emma insisted, voice tight with fear. She promised. Matthew checked his watch. 1 more minute. The tactical vehicles had reached the facility, now disgorging armed personnel who moved with military precision. The operation was larger than anticipated, not just Diana's personal team, but a fully equipped strike force. Who are these people? Matthew murmured, watching through the windshield. The consortium, Emma replied matter-of-factly. That's what Aunt Diana calls them. The casual revelation from a 9-year-old sent chills down Matthew's spine. Not just Diana gone rogue, but an entire shadow organization. The stakes kept escalating, the game growing deadlier by the minute. 3 minutes. Decision time? Matthew's hand hovered over the ignition, leaving men abandoning Natalie to whatever fate awaited inside. Staying risked the children's safety, the one line he'd sworn never to cross. Please, Emma whispered, just a little longer. On the plaintive request broke something inside him. Matthew had lost his father to violence, his wife to illness. He knew the hollow ache of abandonment, of questions left unanswered. Could he inflict that same wound on this child? 2 more minutes, he conceded. Then we have to go. Emma nodded, eyes fixed on the facility's entrance. The seconds ticked by with excruciating slowness. More armed personnel surrounded the building. Gunfire echoed sporadically from inside. Whatever confrontation was occurring between the sisters and Diana's people, it had escalated beyond containment. Mom taught me about exfiltration protocols, Emma said suddenly. If separated, proceed to the nearest safe house and await contact for 48 hours. After that, activate the emergency relocation plan. The recitation delivered in the sing-song cadence of a child repeating a memorized lesson twisted Matthew's heart. What kind of childhood had this girl known? Always running, always hiding, always preparing for the worst. Your mom is very thorough, he replied, unsure what else to say. Emma nodded solemnly. She says proper planning prevents poor performance. A soldier's mantra taught to a child. Matthew glanced at Mia, now sleeping against Emma's shoulder. His daughter had known a different life: school plays and birthday parties, bedtime stories and playground adventures. Normal childhood touchstones that Emma had likely never experienced. If they survived this, perhaps that could change. For both girls. Movement at the service entrance caught Matthew's attention. A figure emerged running low and fast toward the tree line. Natalie. But she wasn't alone. Diana ran beside her, wrists still bound but moving with coordinated purpose. The sisters had become temporary allies against a greater threat. Matthew started the engine. There, Emma pointed, relief washing over her features. I knew she'd come. The twins reached the tree line as spotlights swept the facility grounds. Discovery was imminent. Matthew flashed the headlights, once quick signal, then darkness again. Natalie adjusted course immediately, Diana following without hesitation. They reached the vehicle, breathless faces streaked with soot and sweat. Natalie took the passenger seat while Diana slid into the back beside the children. Go, Natalie ordered. Northwest, mountain roads. Matthew complied without question, tactical necessity overriding personal feelings. They'd sort through betrayals later. For now, survival took priority. The SUV accelerated away from the facility, lights still extinguished, until they reached the main road. Behind them, the operation continued to unfold, systematic, professional, frightening in its scope. The consortium, Matthew said, eyes on the road. Emma mentioned them. Natalie shot a look at her daughter, then sighed. Private Intelligence Collective. Former agents, military contractors, corporate interests. Diana's been working with them for years. Not with them, Diana corrected from the back seat. For them, there's a difference. Semantics, Natalie muttered. Matthew processed this new information, fitting it into the expanding puzzle. And they want Project Blackout, the weaponized version. Among other things, Natalie checked the side mirror, scanning for pursuit. The consortium specializes in destabilization, creating power vacuums, then selling solutions to the highest bidder. Effective business model, Diana commented, shifting to accommodate Emma, who had pressed against her despite the bound wrists. The girl's instinctive trust in her aunt, despite everything, spoke volumes about complicated family dynamics. Why did you help her escape? Matthew asked Natalie, the obvious question hanging between them. Tactical necessity, she replied without hesitation. The consortium would have extracted everything she knows, then eliminated her. Diana's many things, but she's still family, Emma finished quietly. Silence fell over the vehicle, heavy with unspoken truths and tangled loyalties. Matthew focused on driving, putting distance between them and pursuers while processing Diana's accusation. Natalie had been involved in his father's death. An accident, she claimed, but covered up, hidden, manipulated to serve agency objectives. How much of their entire interaction had been calculated? Their meeting at the diner, had that truly been coincidence or carefully orchestrated theater? The protection she'd offered genuine concern or merely securing an asset? You're thinking too loudly, Natalie observed, breaking the silence. Ask what you need to ask. Matthew glanced in the rearview mirror at the children. Mia still slept, exhaustion overriding fear. Emma watched the adults with wary attention, absorbing every word, every nuance. Not now, he replied. Later. Natalie nodded, accepting the postponement. Head toward Pike National Forest. I have a secure location there. Another safe house. Something like that. She checked her phone, frowning at the display. No signal. They're jamming communications. Standard protocol, Diana added. They'll have satellite tracking on this vehicle soon. Heat signatures, movement patterns. I'm aware, Natalie replied tersely. We need to switch transportation. Matthew considered their options. Ray's garage, if he's still alive. He is, Diana interrupted. Sedated but unharmed. The consortium has no quarrel with him. The casual confirmation of Ray's survival released a tension Matthew hadn't realized he was carrying. One less death on his conscience. One less friend lost to this expanding conflict. The garage is too obvious, Natalie decided. They'll have it under surveillance. The bus station, Matthew suggested. Maintenance yard. Ray has connections there. Emergency vehicles, service access. Natalie considered this, then nodded. Good thinking. Head there. They drove in tense silence, each lost in private calculations. The city's outskirts gave way to industrial zones, then the sprawling transportation hub that served Denver's commuter population. Matthew navigated to the maintenance entrance, relieved to find it minimally secured, a single guard booth with a sleepy attendant. Natalie handled the conversation, presenting credentials that granted them immediate access. The maintenance yard stretched before them, buses in various states of repair, service vehicles, employee cars. There, Matthew pointed to a maintenance truck with Denver Water Department markings. Utility vehicles have access everywhere. Minimal checkpoints. Natalie nodded approval. Well reasoned. They parked the SUV between larger vehicles, concealing it from casual observation. The transfer to the maintenance truck happened quickly. Children first, then the adults. Diana remained cooperative, a model prisoner who hadn't yet revealed her endgame. That worried Matthew more than active resistance would have. With the children secure in the truck's extended cab, Natalie finally addressed her sister directly. The zip ties stay on, Diana shrugged. For now. The casual confidence sent warning signals through Matthew's tactical assessment. Diana had a plan, something they weren't seeing. The fail-safe, Natalie continued, turning to Matthew. We need to access it. Understand exactly what we're dealing with. Matthew patted his pocket, confirming the USB drive remained secure. Not here. Too exposed. Agreed, once we reach the forest location. She climbed into the passenger seat, maintaining visual contact with Diana in the back. Emma, keep an eye on your aunt. Tell me if she does anything unusual. Emma nodded solemnly, accepting the responsibility without question. The child soldier following orders. Matthew started the truck, navigating through the maintenance yard toward a service exit. No alarms had been raised. No pursuit identified. Perhaps they'd gained a temporary advantage. The consortium will track the SUV first, Natalie explained as they merged onto a westbound highway. That gives us perhaps an hour before they expand the search parameters. And then, Matthew kept his eyes on the road, voice deliberately neutral. Then we implement the contingency protocol. Which is, Natalie hesitated, glancing back at the children. Better discussed in private. The evasion set Matthew's teeth on edge. More secrets. More compartmentalization. Even now, with everything falling apart around them, Natalie maintained operational security. No more secrets, he insisted quietly. Whatever happens next, we face it with full knowledge. Diana's soft laugh floated from the back seat. Oh, I like him, Nat. Principled, just like his father. The comparison struck a nerve. Matthew's hands tightened on the steering wheel. My father built a weapon that could cripple nations, then covered his tracks. I'm nothing like him. Aren't you? Ooh. Diana leaned forward, voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. The fail-safe you're carrying, Daniel's insurance policy, did you think it was designed to destroy Project Blackout? Uncertainty flickered through Matthew. That's what Natalie said. Of course she did. Diana's smile was all teeth. But what if it's something else entirely? What if Daniel Burns built not one weapon, but two? Natalie's expression hardened. Enough, Diana. The truth hurts, doesn't it, sister? Diana settled back, satisfaction evident in her posture. Ask her about the second fail-safe, Matthew. The one Daniel designed to enhance Blackout, not destroy it. The accusation hung in the air, poisonous and persuasive. Matthew glanced at Natalie, searching for denial for explanation. Is it true? He asked quietly. Natalie's hesitation told him everything. It's complicated. Simplify it. She sighed, a resignation replacing resistance. Your father built two fail-safes, one to destroy Project Blackout if it fell into the wrong hands, another to perfect it if the right hands claimed it. And which version do I have? I don't know, she admitted, not without accessing the files directly. The authentication protocols I've seen confirm it's genuine, but not which version. The revelation settled like lead in Matthew's stomach. He'd been carrying a USB drive that might contain the very weapon he sought to destroy. The irony was almost unbearable. So all this time, he said slowly, you weren't sure if we were saving the world or damning it. I was sure of one thing, Natalie replied, voice hardening, that neither Project Blackout nor its fail-safes should fall into the consortium's hands. Everything else was secondary, including us, Matthew nodded toward the children, including them. They were never supposed to be involved. Genuine regret colored her tone. Emma should have been safe with her grandmother. You and Mia should never have crossed paths with any of this. But we did. Matthew's voice remained steady despite the emotions churning beneath. And now we're all in this together. So I'll ask again, what's the contingency protocol? Natalie studied him for a long moment, then nodded, decision made. We split up. I take the fail-safe to Arlington, determine which version we have, and act accordingly. You take the children to a secure location outside the consortium's reach. And Diana comes with me, insurance against consortium interference. From the back seat, Diana snorted. Using your own sister as a human shield. Classy Nat. Using family as leverage is apparently genetic, Natalie retorted, glancing meaningfully at Emma. The siblings' verbal sparring continued as Matthew processed Natalie's plan. Logical, tactically sound, minimizing civilian exposure while maximizing operational effectiveness, and entirely unacceptable. No, he said firmly, we don't split up. Natalie turned to him, surprise evident in her expression. It's the most efficient. Efficiency isn't the point, Matthew interrupted. Safety is. The moment we separate, we become vulnerable. Divide and conquer, the oldest strategy in warfare. He's not wrong, Diana observed from the back seat. The consortium excels at isolating targets. Stay out of this, Natalie snapped before returning her attention to Matthew. What do you propose instead? We stay together, all of us. Matthew glanced in the rearview mirror, including the children in his declaration. We determine which failsafe we have, then make decisions as a unit. Tactically unsound, Natalie argued. Too many variables, too many vulnerabilities. Maybe, Matthew conceded. But we've tried it your way, compartmentalization, need-to-know basis, divided responsibilities. And here we are running for our lives, trust, shattered alliances broken. The critique landed with visible impact. Natalie fell silent, weighing his words against her training, her experience. The children shouldn't be anywhere near Arlington, she finally said. It's too dangerous. I agree. Matthew gestured toward the mountain range looming ahead. We go to your secure location first. Assess the fail-safe. Make plans. Then implement together. A compromise. Not ideal from either perspective, but workable. Natalie nodded slowly, accepting the adjusted strategy. Pike National Forest, she confirmed. Cabin C7. The designation sent a jolt through Matthew. C7, like the server folder. Your father's idea of a joke, Natalie explained. He established the safe house during Project Blackout's early days. A personal retreat where he could work undisturbed. Another connection to Daniel Burns. Another thread in the tapestry of secrets and lies that had defined Matthew's life without his knowledge. They continued westward, the city giving way to foothills, then dense forest. Natalie directed him onto increasingly remote roads, unpaved, unmarked, eventually little more than game trails, navigable only by four-wheel drive. The maintenance truck handled the terrain admirably, climbing steadily into the mountains. 2 hours from Denver, they reached a narrow turnoff concealed by overgrown vegetation. Here, Natalie instructed, follow this to the end. The road barely deserved the name, a rugged track that wound through pine forest across a shallow creek, then up a final incline to a small clearing. Nestled among ancient trees stood a cabin, not the rustic structure Matthew had expected, but a modern facility with solar panels, satellite equipment, and reinforced doors. My father built this, he asked, surveying the sophisticated installation. With agency funding, Natalie confirmed. Official designation, Remote Research Facility 7C. Off the books, off the grid. They parked beside the cabin, the truck's engine ticking as it cooled. The mountain air carried the scent of pine and earth, clean, peaceful, incongruous with the danger pursuing them. Home sweet home, Diana murmured from the back seat. Been a while, hasn't it, Nat? Natalie ignored the comment, turning to the children. Emma, take Mia inside. Show her where the kitchen is. Find something to eat. Emma nodded, accepting the responsibility without question. Come on, Mia, I know where they keep the good cookies. The casual familiarity confirmed what Matthew had already suspected. Emma had been here before. Perhaps many times. Another piece of the puzzle slotting into place. Once the children were inside, Natalie turned to Diana. You're staying in the vehicle until we secure the perimeter. Diana rolled her eyes but made no objection. Matthew followed Natalie toward the cabin, mind cataloging tactical details, defensive positions, escape routes, vulnerability points. Security system is biometric, Natalie explained, placing her palm on a concealed scanner beside the door. Limited access, agency personnel only. The door unlocked with a soft click. Inside the cabin revealed its true nature, not a retreat, but a command center. Advanced communications equipment lined one wall. Secure servers hummed quietly in a temperature-controlled alcove. Tactical gear filled locked cabinets visible through reinforced glass. Impressive, Matthew observed. My father had access to all this. He designed most of it, Natalie replied, activating systems with practiced efficiency. Daniel was more than just an engineer. He was a visionary, saw possibilities others missed, including the possibility of betrayal. Matthew withdrew the USB drive from his pocket, hence the fail-safes. Natalie nodded, gesturing toward a specialized computer terminal. That system is isolated from external networks. We can examine the contents safely. Matthew hesitated, the drive suddenly heavy in his palm. And if it's the wrong version, if it's the enhancement, not the kill switch, then we destroy it. Natalie's certainty was absolute. And find another way to end this. The straightforward answer reassured him. Despite everything, the secrets, the manipulations, her involvement in his father's death, Natalie remained committed to containing Project Blackout. That alignment of purpose would have to suffice for now. Matthew inserted the drive. The system hummed, scanning for malware before accessing contents. Files populated the screen, hundreds of documents, schematics, code repositories. There, Natalie pointed to a subfolder labeled Countermeasure. That would contain the kill switch if this is the destruction failsafe. Matthew opened the folder. Inside lay a single file, blackoutterminus.exe. The kill switch, just as his father had promised. Relief washed through him, so powerful his knees nearly buckled. It's the right one. The destruction failsafe. Natalie leaned closer, examining the code with expert assessment. Yes, Daniel's work definitely. Elegant solution. Once uploaded to Cypress Arms network, it would propagate through Project Blackout's architecture, corrupting key protocols, rendering the system permanently inert. So we have leverage, Matthew confirmed. Real leverage. More than that, Natalie straightened, decision crystallizing in her expression. We have the means to end this. Permanently. Outside, gravel crunched beneath tires. Diana, still secured in the truck, watched through the window as a black SUV pulled into the clearing. Government plates. Tactical team emerging with military precision. Inside the cabin, alarms blared. Perimeter breach. Natalie moved instantly, drawing her weapon. NID, she explained, recognizing the tactical formation. My people. Your people. Matthew tensed, suspicion flaring. Did you call them? No. Confusion creased her brow. Communications have been jammed since the facility. Understanding dawned simultaneously. They turned toward the window, watching as an agent approached the truck, speaking to Diana through the open window. She had a beacon, Natalie realized. Concealed transmitter, activated when the jamming stopped. Outside, Diana was being released from her restraints. She stepped from the vehicle, stretching casually before gesturing toward the cabin. This was her plan all along, Matthew said. Let us find the failsafe, lead her people to it, then take control. Not her people, Natalie corrected grimly. Mine, or they were. She activated a security panel, initiating lockdown protocols. Metal shutters descended over windows. Reinforced barriers sealed entry points. The children, Matthew remembered suddenly. Where are they? Secure level below. Natalie moved toward a concealed door. This way. The tactical team outside had surrounded the cabin, taking standard breach positions. Their movements suggested professional restraint rather than aggression, containing the situation, not escalating it. Matthew followed Natalie through the hidden doorway, descending a narrow staircase to a lower level. The space below mirrored the cabin's efficiency, sleeping quarters, supplies, communications backup. Emma and Mia sat at a small table sharing cookies and milk, with the innocent normalcy of children momentarily sheltered from adult complexities. Mom, Emma looked up, instantly alert to her mother's tension. What's happening? Nothing to worry about, Natalie assured her, the lie smooth and practiced. Just some colleagues arriving. Emma's expression showed she wasn't fooled. Aunt Diana called them, didn't she? The perceptiveness of this child, her immediate grasp of betrayal, of tactical shifts, broke Matthew's heart anew. No 9-year-old should understand treachery so intimately. Yes, Natalie admitted, but we're safe here. The facility is secure. A voice crackled through the cabin's communication system, male, authoritative, familiar to Natalie based on her reaction. Agent Walker, this is Director Hargrove. Stand down and prepare for extraction. Natalie's expression hardened. Hargrove, I might have known. You know him? Matthew asked. My superior, Diana's former handler. Natalie's laugh held no humor. And apparently the consortium's inside man at NID. The betrayal expanded outward layers upon layers. Not just Diana gone rogue, but corruption at the highest levels of Natalie's agency. The game board had reshuffled entirely. Agent Walker, Hargrove continued, your sister has provided valuable intelligence. We know you have the failsafe. Surrender it now and all charges against you will be dismissed. Charges, Matthew raised an eyebrow. Treason most likely, Natalie replied matter-of-factly. Standard procedure when an operative knows too much. The calm assessment chilled Matthew to the bone. Natalie had anticipated this betrayal, had perhaps been expecting it from the beginning. What's the play, he asked, shifting into tactical mode. They have us surrounded. Not entirely. Natalie moved to a supply cabinet, retrieving tactical gear. This facility has features even the agency doesn't know about. Daniel built in a contingency. Of course he had. Matthew's father, the eternal planner, preparing for every eventuality. What kind of contingency underground access tunnel leads to a helicopter pad half a mile away? Natalie handed him body armor. Emergency extraction protocol. Outside, Hargrove's patience was wearing thin. You have 5 minutes to surrender peacefully, Agent Walker. After that, we breach. Natalie ignored the ultimatum, focusing on preparations. The children go first. Then you with the failsafe. I'll cover the rear. Matthew accepted the tactical vest, the weapon, the night vision equipment. Security guard to soldier, civilian to operative. The transformation was nearly complete. And if they catch us in the tunnel, he asked, checking the magazine. They won't. Natalie's certainty was absolute. Daniel designed it specifically to evade agency tracking, electromagnetic shielding, thermal dampening. We'll be ghosts. Once we reach the helicopter, then what? Where do we go? Arlington. Natalie's expression hardened with resolve. We end this. Upload the kill switch directly to Cypress Arms network. Destroy Project Blackout permanently. The plan was audacious, borderline suicidal, breaking into one of the most secure facilities in the country while being hunted by both the consortium and corrupted government forces. Yet the alternative, running forever, always looking over their shoulders, was unacceptable, especially for the children. Arlington, Matthew agreed. We end this. Natalie nodded, partnership reestablished despite the betrayals between them. They would confront those truths later, the deceptions, the manipulations, her role in his father's death. For now, tactical necessity demanded cooperation. Emma, Natalie called. Operation Foxhole, remember the protocol? Emma nodded solemnly, already gathering essentials. Small pack, essential items only. Move quick, stay quiet. Again, the child soldier responding to commands. Matthew knelt beside Mia, helping her prepare with gentler guidance. We're going on another adventure, Pumpkin, he explained, keeping his voice steady. A secret tunnel like in your storybooks. Mia nodded, eyes wide but trusting. Will the bad people find us? No, Matthew promised. We're going to be invisible, like magic. Above, the tactical team had begun testing defenses, probing electronic locks, scanning for structural weaknesses. The cabin's security would hold for now, but not indefinitely. 2 minutes, Natalie announced. Final preparations. Matthew secured the USB drive in a specialized container designed to withstand extreme conditions. The fail-safe, Daniel's legacy, their only leverage, could not be compromised. Emma helped Mia with her small backpack, showing surprising gentleness toward the younger child. Stay close to me, she instructed. I won't let anything happen to you. The simple promise child to child carried more weight than all the adult assurances combined. "Ready?" Natalie asked, completing her own preparations. Matthew nodded, checking his weapon one final time. "Lead the way." She activated a concealed panel, revealing the tunnel entrance, a reinforced door built to withstand significant force. "Once we're through, the system will reseal automatically. They'll breach the cabin and find nothing." Natalie's smile held grim satisfaction. Daniel loved his surprises. Like father, like daughter, Matthew thought, recognizing his own inherited traits for the first time. The planning, the contingencies, the determination to protect those he loved, whatever the cost. Perhaps he was more like Daniel Burns than he'd realized. "Arlington," he confirmed, resolve hardening into certainty. "We end this. Together." Natalie nodded, a new respect in her gaze. Not handler and asset now, but equal partners in a dangerous mission. "Together," she agreed, "for them." She nodded toward the children who stood ready, trusting the adults to lead them to safety. The tunnel door opened with a hydraulic hiss. Beyond lay darkness, uncertainty, danger, but also purpose, direction. The path forward, however treacherous. Matthew took Mia's hand in his right, gripped his weapon with his left. Soldier and father, protector and avenger. They stepped into the tunnel as breach charges detonated above the cabin's final defenses, giving way. But they were already ghosts, vanishing into Daniel Burns' last secret, a path of his making, leading toward destiny of their creation. Behind them, the tunnel sealed seamlessly, erasing all evidence of their passage. Ahead lay Arlington Project Blackout and the confrontation that would determine not just their fate, but potentially the world's. The hunt had become a mission. The mission? A crusade. And Matthew Burns, once an ordinary security guard, had become its unlikeliest champion.